Go live, and we're live.
Oh my god, welcome to Plat Chat VALORANT, episode 205. My name's TMV, and today I'm joined by Achilleos and Chobra.
Hello.
And who's this in the middle? Oh, it's Sideshow, eating a corn dog. Because guess who's not awake? Yes, that's right, Kurt is waking up at 5 a.m. to do this episode, and we've got this guy here who is just refusing to turn up again. Again, he is not here, forcing me to do this. When will he turn up? We don't know. We have no idea. There is no like, oh, I'm doing this or whatever. He's asleep. So God knows when he'll turn up for this show. He might not turn up for this show, which would be quite funny. And you'll just have to live with that picture throughout the entire show. But yeah, welcome to the episode. The first thing we'll talk about, as we always do here on Plat Chat, is talking about becoming a member, because it's a great time to be part of the Plat Chat community. Of course, a lot of things going on. Masters Bangkok is coming up, and if you become a member, you can go and join the members only Discord and join the members only Pick'em group as well. You can show off your superior smarts. It won't probably take that much for Plat Chat members. Someone, Kurt said, gifted 10 members just a while ago. So all of you who got gifted, congratulations, welcome to the Plat Chat member community. But we also do have a question, as we always do, from our members. And again, if you join as a member, you could ask this question as well. And our question this week, actually, I think is quite a good question. Unlike, most of the ones about me, would you press a button to kill me? Would you press a button to, do whatever to TMV? This one from Finn is, if there was a consolation Masters for the third and fourth teams of each region, who would win? So we've got the participants there. You can see BLG, DRG, Gen.G, Talon, Team Heretics, Foot, MIBR, and Crew. So who is kind of the best of the rest? Let's open it first up to Achilleos.
I feel like it would have to be either Gen.G or MIBR. At least that's where my brain's going to off the rip here, because BLG, minor choking hazard on stage. DRG,
all very good.
There's still some improvements that need to be made there. So I think it would have to be either of those two, and it would just come down to who pops off harder, Texture or Aspas.
Okay, Chobra.
Did Heretics losing to Liquid just completely remove them from the possibility?
Everything that Heretics has done so far in Kickoff has removed them from the qualifications in my brain.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? You're thinking about, like, if this tournament was played, in a couple weeks, like
it takes off, like, maybe it even precedes Bangkok, and it's just like it's the lead-in.
Then I think you'd have to go with.
It's like the Puppy Bowl for
I'll go with Gen.G though. I'll go with Gen.G. I think they have a little bit more stability than MIBR, perhaps.
Yeah, I think they have more than one player.
Although Crew's not a bad shout either.
I think Crew and Foot would be the dark horses of this tournament.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I think they both would have, they both got a lot of firepower. It's possible that they might, might go on a bit of a run, little lower bracket run. I could see for both of those teams as well. I think, the Aspas carry would be potentially pretty strong. You're both Pacific heads. None of you giving Talon a shout?
I was about to say that we mentioned even bad teams and Talon.
Any Pacific bias? No?
But Talon, see, that's the thing about Talon. They're not great, but they're not bad. So they're just unremarkable. Like they can't even quite win the Consolation Masters. It's a little rough sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's a bit more work that needs to be done there to start instilling that confidence.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to BLG, because I don't think they're that bad either, to be honest. I think in this tournament they would actually do all right, because I think in the China teams we've kind of, they played ages ago, so it's a bit like, oh, we've just forgotten about China. I'm sure EDG and Trace will get somewhat like under the radar kind of thing. They've had extra time to work as well, of course, than all the other teams. So yeah, it should be exciting. But let's dive into Pacific, shall we? This is where these brains really thrive. I saw a picture of Achilleos. I think you were lying across
Chobra's lap. What you're gonna say.
And, the best of analysis.
Genuinely, like, that was just off the cuff. No one knew that I was going to do that, and I was just like, I feel like I'm being left out. We've got Chobra back on the analyst desk couch. I'm going to just go lay on top of everyone.
Yes. Sorry, should have got that image for you, Kurt. But let just the people just have that in their mind. If you haven't seen the picture, just imagine it if you want to, of Achilles just on Chobra's lap. Anyway, let's talk about Pacific, and our first topic here is talking about the aforementioned Talon, who got absolutely rinsed by Gen.G, which perhaps looks even worse considering Gen.G didn't qualify. It was not a great game for Talon, and this, by the way, is how we will do today's episode. We're going to be talking about the 3rd and 4th place teams, and of course the teams that made it to Masters Bangkok. So let's start with Talon then, and yeah, it was not a great game for them. In my opinion, this felt like just one of those games where the clearly superior team completely outplays the other team in pretty much every fundamental way. But is that what you saw, Chobra, in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically the trouble is that Talon wanted to lean, supposedly heavily into like what does Primi want, and they tried their best to do it, but that means it's also quite abusable because what ends up happening is the likes of Governor are just throwing their bodies out there so that Primi can go in and trade and work off of the information. But then you have the likes of Gen.G and their individuals, and Munchkin being like, "Oh, they're just gonna throw their bodies at us until it's Primi. Like we just have to pay attention to Primi." So
it's like wave-based combat, and then the tank
the
mob
boss,
comes after, like the little like goblins come running at you.
You know what's really funny is that's what this game felt like, because Gen.G would just swing on everybody until it was Primi. And then they would be like, all right, guys, hold on. Like, we should set up a double peak and we should set up a crossfire and a trade. So it's unfortunate because I do think Talon can play better than this on average. But it was mistimed strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's anything to add?
It's just, I don't know. It was just really rough. I mean, this is what, like, I ended up predicting Gen.G to be able to go into the grand final over T1. That obviously didn't end up happening, but it was because of this performance. I mean, like, T1 is a stronger team than Talon overall, but like, I still just, the form that Gen.G was in, Yeoman just was going absolutely crazy. Foxy continued to be excellent. The calling from Munchkin was super clean. I was like, oh, there's just no way that they don't end up going to Bangkok after a performance like this, because it was just so dominant.
They look sharp. Like, they look so on it, didn't it? Very
few like complaints or like things that you could ridicule from the performance. I mean, Yeoman started things off with an ace in the pistol on Lotus. Like, it was just a disgusting performance. I think that Talon, I mean, they got some time to work on some stuff, but I get wanting Primi to kind of like play what he wants to play and making him as comfortable as possible, but also to a certain point, if things are going to continue looking like this, I think you have to stop giving Primi what he wants, and I think you need to just be like, this is what you are doing, and if you don't do it, then we will find somebody else, I guess. Like, if you're not going to play ball, if you're not going to do what the coaching staff, the GM, the management wants you to do, then eventually you're going to have to move on, I suppose. So I don't know what things are going to look like in stage 1, but I will be very curious to see, and I'm hoping that it's a lot more stable for Talon.
Right. I do want to talk about Talon a bit more, though, because there has been, I think, a growing community narrative around Governor, and this does come back to this whole Primi point that we're bringing up of, if the team is being built around Primi, other people are maybe having to sacrifice themselves somewhat to make that fit in, and Governor, I think, if you were being kind of kind to Governor, you would say he's playing the victor role, right? In the old Optic days of he's being sent, he's been flung in from the top rope. He's just been jumping in, and that's just his role, is to create space, and then the rest of the team, take advantage of that space and do that, right? And the thing is, that does work up to a point, but I think Governor's, stats and his overall performance and is not to the level even where maybe, even a player like that, if you go to old Victor, right? It was like, Victor wasn't the highest fragging player. He wasn't even the top 2, maybe even top 3 of that Optic team, right? But he was still solid, right? We weren't going, like, Governor's one of the lowest rated players in Pacific, and Kurt, there is some blessing I want to give him. Actually, if you could show the pistol round of Talon's attack side, I think it shows it pretty well on this bind game. because Talon actually ended up winning the pistol round that you're about to see. But like, you are literally never going to see someone just more flung into the site, and they're running him as a fake. He double blast backs into A. The rest of the team is on B, and they've just sent him in with literally nothing. Right? This is an extreme example of this guy's stats, you know, the community. Look at him go. Look at him go here. Whee! And he goes. The rest of the team isn't even here. The rest of the team's walking to B. Right? So, and like the round works. The fling and just let this guy die. And, you know, we'll win the round anyway. It did work. But I'm interested to see what you guys think of, like, yeah, okay, this is what they're going for. And this is now, you know, been Governor's role in this team. But is he still, you know, not performing to a level, or do you still have concerns that, you know, I mean, clearly in this game, it didn't work, right? So would you be looking to change it?
Sorry, I just remember that I cast this game.
You did. Yes, you did.
I completely, like, oh man, I'm looking back at this game, and I as soon as I saw that Governor clip, I was like, oh yeah, up and over. I'm like, wait, I said that on the cast, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, I cast this series. I ejected it from my brain so quickly. I thought that was a nice way to start things off, and then they kept trying to do that, not necessarily like as like a fake with Governor, but they kept trying to use him as the more selfless entry duelist, kind of like how Buzz was playing on DRX in particular, where like he goes in and, you know, if he trades, that's great, but ultimately like we need to just gain information, understand like enemy positioning and stuff, and then the rest of the team can kind of pick people apart. Myself and Clinton were like, okay, like if he's gonna play like this, then this is gonna be good. And then it just stopped working. Like they got like these first 3 or 4 rounds or whatever in a row, and then he kept trying to go in, and then the trades like weren't coming through. People weren't able to like scale into sites off the back of his like entry attempts and stuff. And Gen.G just really started shutting them down, and it kind of felt like Talon just kept trying to do it again and again.
Yeah. So something I noticed last year was that there were definitely times, like I would say in 2024, Governor was one of the most prone to overheating on Talon. And then the more you watch their games, you would start to note that sometimes it's because like somebody needs to create space and nobody's doing it. But then the problem is he's like way ahead of the team. Now this year, it doesn't seem like it's Governor who's just like going in without, you know, talking to anybody or anything. It does seem like that's just the game plan, and yet there's still the coordination isn't there, right? So to me, I don't know if it's fair to judge on the surface, you know, that this is Governor's performance, but rather it's a Talon performance thing. Because I mean, he had some great games, you know, in the operator once he was set up to frag and play during kickoff. So it's clear that when it works for him, like he's also capable of hanging with, you know, the top of Pacific. But the way they have it right now, I guess you could argue, like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you put Aspas in there and you fling him in, is he getting more kills? Probably. But is Aspas going to get flung in? Like, probably not. So, you know, there's
Refuses to be flung.
Yeah, there's a trade-off here. So I think it's probably a bigger discussion on the team and the strategy rather than, I think it's a little unfair to be like, well, is Governor, you know, good enough to do this, to pull this off?
Yeah, this feels more like a system breakdown issue for me, where the team just needs to sort it out rather than like an individual performance thing. Like, I mean, could Governor be playing better? Yeah, absolutely. All of them could be, but I don't think that he's being set up well, as Joker's kind of getting to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's Talon. Let's now talk to their opponents in that game that they were playing at Gen.G, who have failed to make it to a Masters event. They made it to all 3 events last year. Of course, they won one of those events last year. They finished second in one of those events last year. And then this year, they're not even qualifying. I guess my first question on this will be, is how big of a disappointment is this for Gen.G? And what is the panic level of Gen.G because of this?
For me, no panic level at all.
Okay.
I think that we were finally starting to see things come together for Gen.G. Getting back to the point and the kind of like level of play that we were seeing from them last year. I think there was a little bit more inconsistency with some of the players, but I think that that's kind of to be expected. I mean, I think it sucks for like Gen.G fans and people who are expecting them to continue to be able to do great things off the rip. But I think that, when you bring two players in, one of whom is, essentially a rookie, Yeoman. Yes, he's been competing for a while, but it's his first year in Pacific and in Tier 1. You bring him into this system, and then you take Foxy, who plays in a very different system with a very different style of calling that he had previously on DRX, and gets in under Munchkin. It's going to take a while to get everything aligned, and I think that we're finally seeing the stars aligning for Gen.G. And I think that if they hadn't played back-to-back days, I think that we would have seen a much stronger performance from them going up against T1, and I think the same would be said for T1 versus DRX. I think that both of those teams ended up kind of getting bogged down a little bit by just having to play so much, whereas the previous iteration of Gen.G would be fine with that because they always played the maximum amount of games. But with the kind of newer setup, I think that it's going to take a little while to build up that endurance and resiliency.
Well, can I just interrupt you there? Because, Kirk, if you go back to the start of this round, this is what kind of boggled my mind with Gen.G, because they were such a Jekyll and Hyde in this game, from map to map, round to round. This is amazing, right? So they're going for stun, Astra suck, textures going forward, Teo missiles, raise nade. We get 2 kills. The round's over before it begins. Wow, what a great play by Gen.G. But some of the other rounds, I mean, if you go to round 7 of Split against T1, I mean, some of the rounds are like just unbelievably bad. And this is the thing, it was like map to map we would have some great rounds, we're looking like Gen.G from last year, and we would have some rounds of like, what on earth are you smoking? Like, what is Munchkin doing? What is the team doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And this game was quite interesting in that the first 3 maps were the first 2 maps were, fairly one-sided for T1.
Yeah.
Then Haven was, pretty one-sided for Gen.G. Then we came to Split, right? So this is round 7. It's 3-3. And this was the start of the downfall, you could say, of Gen.G, where they're against an eco round. Wait, is it round 7? Oh, did I get the wrong round? Oh, no. Is it round 7 that I'm looking for?
Oh, his false narratives have been exposed.
Oh, my false narratives might have been exposed.
been eating
I'm not
the
sure
glue.
it is this round. Maybe it's round 9, Kurt. I might have picked the wrong round. They have a breach ult. Anyway, in whatever round we're about to show, they have a breach ult. They try and breach ult towards A, and it just goes horribly wrong. But anyway, this game was strange because we then got to Split. So we've had 3 kind of one-sided maps. Right, we then get to Split, and T1 start dominating. Right, what is it, a 9-3 half? I think. Gen.G even lose the second round after winning the pistol. So it's not going great. Then all of a sudden, I mean, both teams that won the pistol lost the second round in this map. Yep. And then Gen.G go on this mega, crazy comeback to get it to OT. And it felt like T1, were going to be the ultimate chokers, right? Just the ultimate choke in there for T1. But I just can't get over how good Gen.G looks sometimes. Or if you want to show a definite bad round, Kurt, round 3 of Bind. You watch round 3 of Bind.
I think I found this round that you were talking about, the breach ult. It was the round before.
Let's see it. Oh, it was the round before.
Yeah, I think it might be round 6.
Yeah, anyway, they're going to breach ult in towards A, but instead of scaling towards the breach ult, Texture just kind of tucks in the little cubby. Like, so they get the first kill. They're against an eco. It we're in a 5v4 against an eco. Yeah, I think we're going to breach ult on A, but Texture then doesn't scale towards the breach ult. They send a Fade Seize in towards the breach ult as well. But it's like, how do you so here we go, breach ult, right? Teo missiles, everything's going towards the site. Texture just tucks into this corner. No one else scales because of the Viper Molly. Texture dies. We're then just going to panic and be like, oh, okay, we Cypher ult them. So we've used multiple ults in this round against an eco as well. Then we panic, just run towards the other side. In we go, we die. Foxy's now going to do a trip for Bilbo Baggins that's going to get jumped over. That's going to lose them the round. And we don't have time. When we're going to we don't have time. It's just not a good round. Not a good round at all. Yeah. But then you see the clip we showed before was like, oh, look at this amazing combo they did. They got 2 kills. Like, Choba, what's going on with this team? Who are they in this game?
No, I honestly do think we're seeing how much Munchkin benefited from having like great comms throughout the entire team. Like I think it is mostly a comms problem where right now it does feel like it's probably, if I had to speculate, this is speculation, but if I had to speculate, that's probably just Munchkin like running through everything, right? Running through the options, running through the cooldowns, running through the map. And I think that result, and that would explain why they're slow everywhere. Like, dude, that match had so many time rounds where, I mean, sometimes they got it, but they were running short on time almost every single round that they were going in on split. So it's like, but that would explain it because he's probably like, all right, wait, hold on, like, let me think about this. So what do we do? And people are maybe feeding him information, but they're not being proactive.
Just before you go, this round, play it from the start, Kurt, if you could. This round, tell me, right, everyone watching this, tell me that this doesn't look like a ranked round. Tell me you haven't seen this exact ranked round in your Plat ranked games. Look at this. We're going to just like walk down A for the attackers, and we're just going to swing in dry, no util. And then one by one, Karen then decides, I'll have a go, dies. And Foxy in a second is going to say, I'll have a go, dies. Tell me you haven't been the player sitting on B and had this round happen to you in your ranked games. What are they doing? This is an anti-bonus round. This is an important round.
I was losing my mind too. If anything, I would have thought that at least Charon wouldn't, because he's been there now. Like, I know he's still, you know, relatively new, but like he was there like for last year, like, and he you know what I mean, like it should have been built in by now, and maybe I have high expectations, but Foxy, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't surprised that he swung back out, although he should have. But and you know what else I was surprised was that in the DFM match they figured out how to work this, which was just have Foxy9 be Munchkin's bodyguard and roam around the map together, and it was just the buddy system. And then Munchkin would have a much better read on the map because like they would just clear half the map. And then they wanted to try to go back to, you know, very spread out defaults and getting information, and it's just like, but you're just getting picked off, like you said, one by one. So it's tough. And I think they if this doesn't get fixed in server, Solo and HSK need to figure out their timeout strategy, because, you know, waiting until the third quarter of each half, like that's just not going to work anymore, because that timeout is what's going to fix your game.
Yeah. Especially when, like, you know, they're losing like 9-0 on bind. You know, they're getting destroyed early on. Like, yeah, it's strange. Go on, Achilles.
Oh, I just say they need to get involved earlier and just you know, get in touch with Munchkin and tell him that, you know, A looks weak. So like
go away. The solution.
Oh
man.
That I think that quote might have opened people's eyes to somehow, you know, just how basic it can be sometimes. You know, we're all thinking, oh, I bet they've called a triple fake here, you know, where we insert and then you go here. These coaches, well, they're so smart. No, it's just go away.
Guys, I have an announcement.
Oh, is he here?
Oh boy.
We got a message from Wilkinson. He says, "Yo, sorry, I slept through my alarms. I am here." He is not here, but I guess he's at his computer. So
okay.
I'm gonna adjust the camera.
Incoming.
While we're waiting, I do just want to say, I think Yeoman has been growing into it slower than I thought
you were gonna say. I thought you were just gonna slander Wilkinson. I thought you were just gonna call him like, well, whilst we're waiting before he's here, like, what an absolute tosser. Like, what is he doing? Where is he? Late again.
I mean, I can do that in front of him. I don't need to wait.
We should put a bounty out at this point, because I think there's so many people who like to tune in on the regular, but it never starts on time, and it's always because of Wilkinson. We should put a member goal, and then if we reach it, we just cut him from the show, and then it will always start on time.
But when you said bounty, I thought you meant, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Oh, I'm not trying to have the FBI knock on my door or anything like that, but
yeah,
you know, but yeah, or I guess MI6 maybe at that point to protect their citizens. But yeah, let's just get him. Let's just fire him.
Yeah.
We can continue.
Where is the responsibility?
What's the number, Kurt?
How much to fire Sideshow? How many members do we need to fire Sideshow?
To be fair,
10,000 members.
Sideshow's credit, he is in LA still. He had to get up at 5 a.m. for this show, or 5:30.
But this is the thing, Kurt, and this is like
this
is what G2 has done to Valorant as well, right? When G2 plays some beautiful Valorant, they've made every other team look bad because it's like, well, they can do it. So there's no excuse of like, oh, no one could play that good, because they are. Right? With you are G2 in this instance, Kurt, because you're up, you're awake, you're here on time, you're setting up the show, you're doing the show notes, you're producing. He's not even turning up.
Did you say
He's
I'm
not
an
even
alpha
here.
male?
That's so lame. Oh god, I should just get my talking privileges revoked. I'm done talking.
No, he's great. No, I'm not laughing at what you said. I'm laughing at you calling Wilkinson a beta. I think it's very funny.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's still not here. He's still not here. What's he doing? Washing his bald head?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Take
I
a
think
shower.
he literally woke up and messaged me. So two options. He got up and is like washing his face to like wake up. Second option, he fell back asleep.
Fell back asleep.
If he fell back,
Sleepyhead.
The slander is never ending, is it? It just
You give it so
goes
much
on.
ammunition. What do you
To be
mean the
fair,
slander's never ending? Don't do something stupid. Be on time.
It ends when you show up, and it only
Yeah.
never ends because you never show up.
I mean, and you know what? That's reasonable. That's reasonable. I woke up at like, you know, like when I set too many alarms. I set 4 alarms. Woke up at the first one. It's like 5:15, and I'm like, I can wait until the third or
I've got a
fourth,
little
can't I? And then when I got up, I realized that my my microphone had run out of battery. So I was sat there watching the show, just like charge.
I think the people would have enjoyed the show more if you were just muted throughout, and we just had your nodding and shaking.
We got a great effigy for you in your.
I know. I saw. I saw. Yeah, me from like, what is that? 5 years ago with a corn dog in my mouth or something.
It's longer than that. I'm pretty sure I had that photo on my phone before we met.
What?
It feels like.
That's from 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
is a
recognize
long
that
time
actually.
ago.
Why was
That's
that a big
from-
that
corn
was
dog
the year that
sucking
we
face
met,
for
in
you?
fact.
Yeah, that was.
Was that your corn dog sucking year, 2017?
Maybe this is why I'm not a big fan of corn dogs. I don't know. Maybe I got a traumatic event with them or something. Who knows? How are things?
Things are doing well. It was running very smoothly, I think, until
I arrived.
Yeah.
Well, carry on. Don't by all means. Don't let me interrupt proceedings.
Did you watch T1 versus Gen.G?
Did I watch T1 versus Gen.G? See, here's the problem: is that I'm on the right. So last week when I was doing the Pacific show, I was like a week behind, and now I'm a week behind again. But I did manage to catch some of the games this week, but not all of them. The Gen.G games, I missed the 2 BO5s. So I didn't catch those 2. So you're just gonna have to carry on giving me the input.
So nothing's changed.
So we might as well just put the corn dog picture back up. Is what you're saying?
Essentially. Put the corn dog pic back up. I'm not providing value over here. It was better when I was asleep. At least then you had some comedic input.
I've done this so many times on this show where I've been on and we start talking about Americas or something or some show match. I'm like, yeah, didn't watch.
Yeah.
Didn't care.
Fair.
Anyway,
Yeah, where were you up to? You were discussing Gen.G?
Yes.
We were
finished on
talking
Gen.G,
about
I think.
how they look good and then terrible sometimes. And we're trying to figure out, is it because they're missing the Lockheed of Valorant or the Meteor of Valorant? That's really where the question comes down to.
Okay,
But I
but
don't
you-
think what I was going to say, what I was going to say is that first of all, I don't think it's necessarily like one or the other. I think it's just the system that they had, right? And I do think I've seen Yeoman starting to fill those shoes, and we saw them try to figure out how they can best utilize Foxy, because when he's playing comfortably, he plays really well. So like, how do you slot him into that? But I think probably if I was like on the staff, probably the inevitable feels like, okay, we now have to expect more from Caron in terms of making decisions and being proactive, because like he understands our system. So maybe that's something they work on for stage 1, but I don't think they were ready for that here at kickoff.
Okay, but you did watch the grand final, right? Did you, Josh? No?
I told you I missed both of the BO5s.
Jesus Christ, you're just a useless pawn. So you know nothing about T1.
No, I do know.
You know about Autumn. You know about
What do you
Autumn
know
and
about
Meteor
T1?
Flaming
I know about
Autumn.
Autumn, and I watched all the T1's games up until those 2 BO5s.
And I've talked to you, and I know that you're a T1 hater.
I am such a T1 hater. And the problem with... Okay, so coming into the game, one of the games that I was super excited to watch, and I think I did a co-stream of it as well, was DRX versus T1 in the upper bracket.
Oh, the upper.
And Is this
Unfortunate.
autumn's new coaching strategy where we decide to cut Sylvan and add Carpe in to ensure a second place finish? Is that an important part of the coaching strategy?
Did it get them to Masters Bangkok?
Oh, piss off, Joe, bruh. Surely they would have finished in the same position had they had Sylvan on the team.
I don't know, dude. They were about to get eliminated by Gen.G after getting 17-15 on map 4.
Carpe had some moments. You gotta give him some credit. And I don't know if you would have gotten some of the same hero moments out of Sylvan as you did from Carpe. You might have gotten maybe some more blanket better team play, but I don't know.
They also might finish first.
Oh, true.
Yeah, people are always talking about what they've seen. It's harder to know what you like. It's harder to know what you would have seen if Sylvan had been in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They would. I'm pretty confident. I don't think they would have made it.
Really? You think? So here's the thing. When Sylvan was picked up, people are gassing him up. I thought that was maybe a little much at the time, to be honest. But there's no. Even if you're going for a smokes player at the beginning of the year, they wouldn't have picked Carpe to start with. I think that's quite reasonable, isn't it? Yeah. That's just a bit of a mad scramble because they've realized they're not happy with Sylvan, presumably. I mean, you two both. The problem is you two both know the hidden secrets.
No, right.
I saw
a thing that it was illness. I saw a thing that it was a generational illness, but I don't think
a generational illness.
That's what Autumn implied. Although his answer was very long-winded, but he implied that like there was a really bad flu going around. That much is a fact. But he kept saying like certain members of our team also got the flu without any specifics. So.
But
some of them were sick.
To rebut that for a moment, people on Reddit were even talking about the fact that like they've been looking at him for 3 days, like not in the scrims and not in like you can tell just by the amount of rank that somebody's playing that they're not in scrims because they wouldn't have time to be able to play that much ranked if they were in scrims with people. And so the implication would be that Sylvan has not been in scrims for a while. Carpe was hardcore running smokes in all of his ranked games as well, presumably to prep because he was coming in, and then. They didn't mention, like, if the guy is sick, they're just going to say, oh, yeah, he's sick, but he's going to be back for Bangkok, don't worry. They didn't say that.
He was there.
But I will note
that he wasn't that ill then, was he, if he was there?
There was something that was slightly missed in the qualifying interview from T1 after they won the lower finals, where Sylvan answers, and they ask, like, it's your first time going to a Masters, like, how does it feel? And part of his answer is it's
benched.
It's my it's my first time going to a Masters, and then the part that was, I assume, gracefully omitted was, and I'll do, if I can and I have the opportunity, I'll seize that opportunity to make sure I can play / be on the starting roster, depending on how you interpret the word. So it does appear that it was a conscious choice, whether, mutual or not or whatever, that who knows.
I mean, not mutual, because he's saying in the interview, I'm going to try to play as much as I can.
I don't know. Atan mutually agreed to go back to Challengers for DRX Academy, and he's doing quite well, in fact, as an IGL. Side note, but
yeah, I mean that's like a lot of employees that mutually agree to leave the company after they're told to leave the company.
Yeah, after some major scandal.
Yeah.
Me at the end of this episode is going to mutually agree to be fired from Plat Chat after turning up late too many times.
We've parted ways with Sideshow.
I mean, if we hit the member goal for it, then you'd probably, you'd get some kind of severance, I imagine. So
yeah, get a golden parachute.
Yeah. Sideshow's gonna quit and he gets $56 billion.
What do you think about the comps they're running as well? I was baffled and am baffled actually, though I didn't watch the later versions of it, at their success running the Lotus composition. Well, Lotus is the one that I was gonna bring up. Running the double duelist with the solo, the ISO raise with the Sova. Almost, I mean, I don't think I've seen anybody running that version of a composition or even anything like it on Lotus particularly. It's not like it's a big death ball comp without a Sentinel. It still tries to play, I would say, somewhat standard Lotus ideas. It just uses the vulnerable to try to set up like rubble fights and pressure onto the planters and stuff. But the teams they've played against, I mean, mostly DRX, cannot figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think DRX eventually figured out a little bit of adjustment on Rubble, but then T1 had their own adjustments already in place, like in terms of where the util was going. So one thing is that obviously they're always sending, like if T1's attacking, they're always sending the contingency wall forward to block the gap, so you can jump over to Rubble so you don't get shot, or you can have multiple people run over. And so if you're only sending, let's say your combos, your util combos onto the entrance, then the Raze and Omen will just be totally safe on Rubble. And then you'll always have a crossfire and attack. And like that's part of it. And then you have undercut, whatever. So then the adjustment was to throw your util combos onto Rubble. And so that the contingency just gets wasted. But then they were doing things where they were just getting ahead of it. Like they'll wait until the contingency is further ahead. And then they'll, send in whoever buzz forward and things like that. So it does seem like T1 is pretty well prepped on it. I don't think it's a comp that people are looking at and being like, that's the new comp. Like, that's what everyone's running. But I do think it works for this team because they have a lot of fraggers. I would also say the kill contracts were very well done from Meteor to just nullify a sudden fight because suddenly you have numbers advantage. And he was, generally winning most of them. So I think it works for the team. I don't think it, works internationally for more than like one match, maybe, unless they're all popping off.
Yeah, I think we saw Team Liquid. I'm sure we'll get to them and their Lotus comp kind of get figured out. Maybe this one has a bit more legs than the Liquid one. In fact,
I think so.
It definitely does, but
Yeah.
I think
I
think it may meet a similar fate, especially with like a couple weeks prep for very good teams. My overwhelming feeling about T1 is that this to me is like, unlike some of the other teams who have qualified, this to me just feels like this is a good team in early season form. Like they've got good players, they have some good ideas, but they also make, stupid mistakes, or, the timing's a bit off on an idea, or maybe they don't quite have the right reaction for a certain thing that happens in a map. That's just what T1 feel like to me, which maybe if this was last year, you could still go pretty deep in the first Masters in that kind of form. This year, I think the teams or the top teams are probably a bit too good to be in that kind of space to do super well. And so I think that T1 will probably just be a team that, maybe don't fully realize, what they can be until like champs, until we get to like late in the season. And then we go, oh, assuming they don't who knows? Maybe Sylvan will come in, maybe Carpe will go out, maybe, they'll sign, I don't know, Bren to come in. I don't know. Who knows what will happen? But as long as they don't do that and stick with the team, I think that by the end of the season, they should be a very good team. But for now, I think they're just kind of, a pretty good team that makes mistakes.
I don't disagree with that. I think that clearly the firepower is there. Like the mechanics, the brains for the game. It's just about getting it all to mesh really well. And honestly, like for Carpe coming in as late as he did, and playing a role that he didn't really ever play before, outside of a couple games of Brim and like I forget how many games of Omen he had all time in his career, but it wasn't many. I was still somewhat impressed, and I can kind of understand and excuse a lot of the mistakes that did come through. I think that, they also had to play 13 maps across the weekend, which is nuts. Yeah. 3 days back to back to back of play. Like, it's not that shocking that the players kind of started slowing down and looking tired and looking a little bit out of form because they were just constantly pushing to try to get that first seed spot. So Meteor, he had some hero rounds on I think it was here on Bind, right? Yeah, especially that were just incredible. His back-to-back performances absolutely saved their asses. But then you go into the next map or whatever, and he's whiffing shots that normally Meteor is always good for. So I think that this team refreshed, a little bit more practice. I think they absolutely could surprise us a bit at Bangkok, but I'm also not going to be too shocked if it's okay, you pick up a couple wins, you go out of, even in Swiss, but I would still feel confident about them going forward in the stage 1, stage 2.
They do run stretch comps. They run double duelist on or 5 maps out of 7 in the pool.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I thought that
something like that.
I thought that the adjustment for them on Abyss was going to be that Meteor just kept playing the ISO. And when we saw that wasn't locked in, I was just like, ooh, I don't know. I feel like you could do really well, because the thing that they needed was somebody who could just get into sight, ignore the op on the opposite side from Hyunmin, etc. And the ISO kind of gives that to you. And what they were running didn't look great.
They also could have ran Jet Yoru. Like Meteor could have played the Yoru. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a little baffling that they chose to go for this solo Yoru when you are clearly happy to play double duelist. So I think Abyss was. I think there's a reason that was a permaban from them. So it's not shocking. But speaking of them getting like refreshed and whatnot, Kurt, if you want to bring up the Meteor tweet, it's in Korean, but basically, he talks about like, I've been thinking a lot, et cetera, et cetera. But then the last part is after
you don't need to do this, show, but the members can read. They can read this.
Okay, all right. Well, so as you can see, you got the message. So I just wanted to point that out. Yeah. So after the Gen.G match, Munchkin apparently tells him, it's because we were so happy playing the game last year. Like we were just joyful. And so Meteor apparently like broke down to tears hearing that, because he realized he had forgotten what was important. And he wants to go back to the drawing board and make sure that he focuses on what's important to him as well, and make sure that he like continues to find joy in playing, which I think is very telling, because you look at what he looked like during the matches.
This guy
hold on.
hates his life, thinks his boss is incompetent, is calling him out.
No, this whole fan series isn't exactly going the way we planned, but if you look at the way, because I thought them beating Gen.G, they would all just look a lot happier, which they kind of did the first 2 maps against DRX. But once push came to shove, like they were all friggin' locking up again, and everyone was dead serious. Nobody's laughing, nobody's joking. So I think hopefully that's something that's like a vibe they can fix overall in the team, not just Meteor.
Let's move on to talking about DRX then, I think. So this is the team that's ended up taking down T1 twice, but not in super convincing fashion, I would say. Certainly the first time it felt like they were really struggling as well against, in terms of like meeting their own performance. I think this was maybe some of the worst Valorant that I'd seen from DRX this year in this 2-1 win over T1. They seemed thrown off a little bit. I mean, especially by the comp that was being run here. But they got the job done. And I think that is one of the things that I've been impressed by from DRX, is that when they looked like they were choking 12-6 up against Gen.G, they actually still ended up getting the win. And here, it looked like they were struggling against T1 as well, but the players didn't collapse and they still ended up getting the win, going through to the grand finals, and then they converted a grand finals BO5 as well. So here's my question. I think you mentioned earlier that TMV, that a team like T1 who's in like early season form, maybe that's a bit like a Loud or a Paper X of last year, where they've got something, but they're not a great team at the moment. But they still managed to make it deep at last year's Masters Madrid, or at least fairly deep. Because other teams, I would say, were inexperienced or choked or didn't quite manage to show themselves at the big stage. Is this a concern for DRX? From what you've seen from them, and we know that they're inexperienced players, are you more towards the end of, I'm really excited about these guys, what they've shown is fantastic, and I think that they've like got enough experience from this bracket to do well? Or are you more towards the, I'm a bit worried this might be like a Team Heretics or a Team Carmen Corp from last year in the first Masters event, where they're good and they're going to be good later on down the road, but they need that first showing to kind of get their feet underneath them?
I'm definitely more in the latter camp. I think DRX are like the Pokemon evolution of Gen.G right now, where they have more, like Gen.G, as I was saying, you wouldn't know, Sideshow, you weren't here, but Gen.G are very like, they'll have some great rounds, they'll have some really bad rounds. DRX to me are the same, but they will have more good rounds. They will have, and they will play some incredible rounds, and it's more often than Gen.G. But they also will play some terrible shit. I gave you a round there, Kurt, as well, round 9 on bind versus T1, where like they're making it like Mako makes a mistake here. I maybe it's not a mistake. I don't know. If it's not Mako making a mistake, then I don't know what the fuck the team is doing. But you're gonna see Mako either makes a blunder that's like, how the fuck are you not making this blunder? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense that a pro player this experienced would make this decision, especially when you're the IGL. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so they're and I am worried that, you know, so many of their players, you know, haven't been to internationals. And as I think we can probably say as well that this tournament will be harder than Masters Madrid was last year. So here's the round, right? They're just going to go for a B long exec, right? Flashback is just kind of lurking in kind of the connector, you know, kind of in towards the spawn part of the map. He's not really doing too much. They're just going to do a B long exec. Mako doesn't, I mean, look at that fucking Viper orb as well. Mako doesn't smoke hookah window. He doesn't smoke hookah window. So Hyunmin enters, he dies to hookah window. But there's no one in hookah. They haven't used any util there. Like, you know, normally if you're doing just a B long exec, you smoke off all 3, right, with the brim. But like now Flashback is coming into hookah for the first time. They've used no util here. Why the fuck have we not smoked that? And then our duelist is just dying instantly from someone just looking out of hookah window. Like, it makes no sense. I watched this round and was like, what? I didn't get how Mako, you know, he's maybe the best smokes player in the game's history. How are you making such a simple mistake? Or is it a team thing? Or was Flashback smoke meant to, I don't know, fucking confuse them Scream style? Everyone's just staring up at it, and it's like, we'll enter off that. You know, they'll be distracted by how bad the lineup is.
Staring at it.
Yeah, and so they have this in them as well, where it's just like, look at that Viper orb, man. Look at that.
I think it's really funny that Flashback is toggling.
He's still using it.
He toggles it all the way to the end. That's the best part.
It's very reminiscent of Forsaken's Harbor on this very same map.
Yeah.
But he just was trying to learn Cove lineups, so he just kept chucking them and they were just connecting onto the ceilings and shit.
I assume what's supposed to happen in that round, though, is that, like, surely that is a lineup that's missed that was supposed to go towards CT. And is Mako saving 2 smokes? So he's only put a elbow smoke? Is he saving 2 for post?
No, he puts one in normal CT as well. He's got one left.
So they knew that the Viper lineup missed then?
So I think it's meant to go like on the attack side of like, I think they're meant to try and like walk into the Viper orb and then exec from there, like take the initial space is where I think it's meant to land. But it doesn't make any sense why you still wouldn't smoke hookah window, because they didn't use anything in there. It's just bizarre. But they'll have these rounds, but then also they'll be very good. Like and so they're just a bit up and down right now. But I do worry that on the international stage going into Bangkok, they will be, you know, I'm a bit worried that their best 2 players in Hyunmin and Freeing, you know, it's gonna be their first internationals, and if those 2 are a bit nervous, they could be in trouble, because those two win quite a few rounds, you know, on their own sometimes.
Yeah, the thing that doesn't concern me as much, and I guess one of the reasons why I'm like shrugging off some of the stupid mistakes like that is just, I mean, at the end of the day, like Mako, he is a god, but he's also like still like just recently picked up the reins of IGL again. You know, basically just coming into kickoff, he just said like, yeah, no, I want to do this again. I'm not liking the way that Freeing's calling, and Freeing just went, cool, I'm chill with that. Like, that's just straight up what he said. He's just like, I don't like Freeing's calling style, and Freeing went like, all right, like I'm fine to just focus on my own gameplay.
Turn into Terminator, yeah.
And then and like he's becoming more and more confident with it, more and more comfortable with it. So I think that when you see kind of mistakes like that, it's maybe where he is still getting a little frazzled trying to track everything. But for the most part, it's very clean, and it's a hell of a lot better than what we were seeing, you know, as far as like the macro mistakes that were occurring at like champs last year. So I think that he's gotten so much better about it. But the thing that inspires confidence, I guess, in me the most is just that Termi, like if there's anybody at this point that's going to get these young players ready for that stage, I do think it's Termi. And I think that when they do have these issues come through, Termi is going to be one of the more impactful coaches that you can get that's going to, I don't know why the fuck Meteor picked that, but I think he's going to be one of the more impactful coaches to be able to just immediately intervene and then get things back on the right course.
If they can get good individual performances coming out from the players,
Josh,
your microphone
your mic
died.
fell off your shirt.
Oh,
It's in your lap right now. We could hear you scratching yourself.
that's crazy.
Do you have no? I mean, it's pretty
When did that
lightweight,
happen?
but you have no feeling in your lower limbs. You feel the mic hit you.
It's like 2 grams of weight. I'm not gonna feel that.
Lovely. Okay. That's great. What was I going to say? If they can get good individual performances coming out from people like Freeing. I mean, Freeing has just been an absolute nutcase in every match, I think, apart from the upper bracket final. The upper bracket final. But he was frying in every other situation. He was the best player for DRX, I think. And that's not even it's not even to disrespect the rest of DRX, because Mako and Hyunmin in particular are still playing super well as well. But I mean, he's going to keep it up, I would assume, even at an international level, because he just took no time adjusting from tier 2 to tier 1. There was no transition period whatsoever. He just immediately came up and started frying. So I feel good about him.
I mentioned on the cast, apparently people didn't know about that, but I had mentioned that this was, Freeing was the guy that would reported.
Yeah.
I mean, somewhat jokingly, but reported him for just being insane when he was playing at Champs or whatever. They're in the same on the same team on. I want to say they're playing Sunset. And Freeing just hit the nastiest flick and clutched the game for them. And Woot was just like, nope, there's no fucking way. And he just opens up the report window and just sends one off, even though he knows that he's not actually cheating. He's just like, I can't fucking believe this guy. He's just cracked out of his mind.
And now Freeing's at the next event and Woot isn't. So that's how it goes sometimes.
So the lesson is you gotta be cheating, and then you'll get to the next event.
Yeah. Just cheat, and you will get just coffers of wealth and accolades will come your way.
Yeah. I tend to be, the question I asked at the very beginning about DRX, I feel like they've got a lot of reps, despite not going through the lower bracket. I feel like they've been kind of pushed in a lot of their games to the point where
well, even if they're not, they'll find
a
a way to play bad enough to where then they'll go to OT.
Maybe that's
We
the
play
strategy.
Salt of the Earth, 2-1 Valorant, clock in, clock out.
Yeah. But they really have, they've tossed a couple halves and recovered it. There's plenty of VOD footage for them to learn from.
Dear.
Plenty of opportunities to keep improving as they go forward. So I'm feeling pretty good. And I think they have the best Tejo in the world right now with Freeing. It's not even just that he's hitting his shots.
I mean, they better though, because they've now successfully played him on every single map, right? So they are running Teo comps on every single map. So we would hope, but yeah, I would agree that he looks the best. I also want to say that I think Hyunmin is actually gonna show up at Masters.
I hope so.
I think because that dude, all the way to the end of the best of 5, he's just smiling, right? Every frag he hits, you look at the player cam, he looks over, he smirks at his teammates, and he's like, "Yeah, this is right. I'm just better than Buzz, I'm better than Stacks," and he's just loving the game. And I think that kind of confidence we haven't really seen on anyone in DRX in a long time. So I think he's going to show up, his ability to play, for the team, and then when he needs to just, go in and get frags, right? He'll do it, and he's clearly very capable. So I think he will surprise even more people at Masters, regardless of the overall team results.
Yeah, I'm old, and I don't necessarily always use this kind of terminology, but Hyunmin is just one of those players with aura.
What are you about to say?
Aura.
He really does just
I thought you
have
were
an
going to
aura
say some
about him.
kind of, slur that you're like,
Yeah, let me just-
in my day, we used to be able to say
I've
this.
worked long enough. Let me just cancel my entire career. Fuck it.
Back in my day, we could say these things.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he's an incredible player. I hope that we could also get him for some English content. That would be very fun at Masters Bangkok. So maybe some pre-tape stuff with Hyunmin.
Yep.
That's such a great moment. I missed this
This
because
is
I didn't see this part.
The king slumping in his throne.
960 days, right? 960 days since they lifted a trophy, which is crazy, or a VCT trophy. So, and then Mako's the only, and you look at this, you can kind of tell because Mako and Bane are the only ones who know what it used to be like. Because Bane used to watch as, obviously Academy member, and then Mako was part of the squad. And the other guys are just they're happy, they're relieved, But like Freeing and Hillman are like, yeah, let's friggin' go. And Flashback's like, woo. And then Mako's like, it's over. Like, my job is done. Thank God it took so long. So it was a very emotional moment. And this shot too, like Stacks, I mean, you got to feel for him, man. You got to feel for him.
It always, those disappointment shots always go harder when the player's wearing a T1 jersey.
Yeah, they actually do. They're the most iconic.
The Faker, and, his head in his hands. Was it Carrier crying with Faker in the background, glancing over at him? They're iconic. But I just wanted to say, I loved in Mako's interview, and some people were conflating this and saying that he was actually trash talking, his former teammates. But I love that he said, like, I thought that, we were kind of mid, when we were on DRX, like Buzz and Stacks, like, I didn't think they were necessarily the greatest players. And then I played against them and he's like, holy shit, they're so much better than, he was basically saying like, I took them for granted when we were teammates. Yeah. Because they are that good. And I think that's such a Mako thing to just still be so goddamn wholesome. Like he could have just shat on him. He could have said, yep, fuck you for leaving. And he's just like, nah, y'all are great.
This moment is so good. Holy shit! I'm just like staring at it. This is amazing.
It's so good.
We had such a good weekend, honestly. Like the whole thing was fantastic.
There was a fan that. Sorry, I just want to say that there was a fan because it goes to show what DRX meant to the Valorant fans in Korea. Because there was a fan who had wristbands from every event he had been to with DRX, and he was the one who had the sign that said, "I've been waiting 960 days for this."
Yep.
And he was like praying, literally. Just
they literally
not even
had a shot of him, and he was like just fucking
he wasn't even watching the game. Like by the end, he was just praying that they would win. So it just goes to show the status he used to hold.
Yeah, I also wanted to give credit.
Shut your mouth.
Were you down on the floor praying, Achilles, for this? I feel like you've lost some of your DRX hope just at the wrong time.
Well, no. Okay, so look, I've never lost the hope. The thing was that when Pacific started, and this is why I did the whole bit at lock-in, like I realized I can't shill one team anymore. I have to shill the region.
Of course you can.
At least
they just have to not be top three.
I have to shill the region except for Team Secret. Everybody else I love. But so I tried to rein it in a little bit because I didn't want to show too much favoritism. I still I get along with the staff. I love the team. I love the players. But I was worried, and what I was praying for was an actual fucking match because the first 3 games I was like, oh, this is just. It's gonna be dog shit, isn't it? Like it's not gonna be exciting. We're just gonna go back and forth. And it's like, ooh, well, I'll win on my map pick, and then you win on your map pick, and then we'll just have these 13-6, 13-7 score lines. That sounds good and amicable.
I mean, that's what the other 2 regions were like.
Yeah. But then we finally got into just some nice tight knit gameplay, and I was like, ooh, something that I can actually use to energize myself. Because I was getting tired, honestly, after the second map. Because it's like, if this continues, there's nothing to hype me up and fuel me for this.
Well, there we go then. That's our Pacific segment, I think. I pat myself on the back. Really good work in that one.
Again, Kurt, I need you to make sure he does not get paid for this segment. If you're like tallying who gets paid for how many segments, I need you to make sure he is not getting paid.
Do you want my pay for this segment?
I will. Giving it.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
No, we're not giving it out. I'm just saying, do you think that you deserve it?
I know that you don't. It's up to the people to decide. Who? Honestly, give it to Kurt for getting up at 5 a.m. Unlike someone else.
That's actually true.
That's very true. That is true. Well, we'll also get rid of Achilles by the sound of things and bring in Mimi as we go on to our EMEA
She awake?
segment. Who knows?
She was actually on standby, like as you got here, Josh. Mimi was like, I can come in, so she is available. She was gonna
I'm glad that I get out of the way now, though. I'm happy to make my departure as she comes in because we were talking about the fucking Super Bowl and she's gonna come shit talk even though she's not from Philadelphia and I am.
Are you a Chiefs fan or something, Achilles?
No, I just always root against the Eagles.
Right, I see.
All right, get the fuck out of here.
You're not from Philly either.
Thank you, Seth. Take it easy.
Cheers. Always a pleasure.
Cheers.
Let's see if Mimi actually is here. She's not. Let me message her.
She's gone back to sleep. She's done the Sideshow. I think Sideshow's having a quick shower now.
He's just at his PC right now. I see him. He's looking at his.
Going for a quick shower.
I thought you were getting up to like wash your face or something, but I didn't realize your microphone needed to get charged. Is it charged now, Josh?
It's like it's charged.
Hello.
Hello, Mimi.
Hello.
Did you climb any greased poles, Mimi?
I did not climb any grease poles, unfortunately. No. I should have, though.
Euphemism, by the way.
Oh, we're all ready, aren't we?
That's not a euphemism. Euphemism.
Euphemism?
Oh. This is gonna be a good time. Hello.
Euphemism used by the youth.
Yes.
Good day to you, Mimi. Good day.
Good day.
How are you?
Oh, you know, I'm living the dream. You know, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last night. Every Kansas City Chiefs fan is crying. Donald Trump is crying. It's a fucking the city's.
Was it not bittersweet for you though,
right
Mimi?
now.
Because I assume in Philadelphia, you know, there was quite a rowdy crowd. Do you not worry about like some of your property getting one of your many properties getting damaged in the city?
No, I want the people to have fun. You know, that's always my big thing. Is a love of the people and a.
You've got landlord insurance.
No, I'm not a landlord. Just for some clarity there, and I don't. No. Thank you, TMV. Though I really appreciate you looking out for me it's very caring as a friend.
Yeah. We're always worried. We're always worried. What if mortgage rates go up?
Oh no!
Here's the scenes in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, I mean, no, they are mental. I was gonna say it's not as bad as I thought, and then I was looking at it. No, they have lost the plot there, haven't they? That's pretty cool.
People deserve to have fun. What? People deserve to have fun.
What are they doing?
I think it's some giant laundry bins with like towels.
Oh, a fire?
Yeah, a little fire. You got to stay warm. It was like 30 degrees out last night. It was a little chilly.
Yeah,
Maybe go
that's
home.
Not barbaric or anything, you know, just
Barbaric,
stay warm.
Chopra. Whoa. Barbaric might be an overstep. I don't see anyone fucking knocking two stones together. I don't see anyone progressing the Paleolithic fucking tech tree. They're just having a good time with their friends in the streets.
I see goddamn Prometheus discovering fire and bringing it to the streets of
Philadelphia is about to be changed forever. They've discovered fire.
They've invented fire. All right, let's get on to EMEA, shall we? All right, let's tackle Foot first. So, Foot, a bit of a disappointing result for them, I would say, because they looked very strong when they came out in EMEA Kickoff. The very first game, ironically enough, was them slapping around Team Liquid. And this was back when it was Team Gluquid. And
but that's the thing. You say they started out strong, but did they?
Yes, they did. What do you mean?
No,
yes, they did.
Because, but when you're playing against someone licking this, like, you know, just sniffing and licking glue, they're covered. They're just so covered in it, they can't even see. Can you give that team credit if the other team is just...
What are you
losing every round themselves?
Right. So you're
like I'm saying that like Foot like they were in that fracture game against Team Liquid the first time.
Yeah.
Every initial idea they had didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah.
They won all of those first 6 rounds because Liquid, you know, can't tie their shoelaces.
Well, it's also because Liquid were also making a lot of plays that were causing them to get opening picks. And then would carry on making risky plays and fail to close things out. So I think that was just what you were getting with Liquid at the beginning of the tournament, was that they were throwing shit against the wall, and most of it was just sliding slowly, sadly down the wall. But I don't think it's fair to rewrite history and say that Foot didn't look like a solid team, because what we saw from them when they were playing against Fnatic, what we saw from them when they were playing on Pearl, for example, when Foot were playing against Liquid there. No, who were they playing against when they were playing on Pearl? Was that... where was that? Oh, that was... no, that was against Team Liquid.
You're watching
sorry.
Team Liquid.
Yeah.
It's on.
It's on your screen, Josh.
Yep, that's Team Liquid.
Yeah.
I'm living in a little bit of delusion at the moment because I think there's two different types of Team Liquid. This wasn't I mean, this is what I think of as Team Liquid, what we're watching right now. What we saw later on in the tournament, that wasn't Team Liquid. I reject that. But before we get into that delusion, I suppose we need to carry on talking about Foot. I don't think it's fair to rewrite the history books and say that they weren't a top team. I think it's still disappointing for them based on what they showcased in this match and the match against.
Who are you talking about? Liquid or Foot?
Foot.
Okay.
No, I'm not rewriting it. I'm not saying they weren't a good team. I'm just saying, like, thinking about it now and like the disappointing way that they went out to Liquid, because that Liquid game that they played that eliminated them was like, that's the thing. So, like, Liquid, it was so weird, Liquid's run, right? But like Liquid, they started off as Gluquid. They then, like mid period, they then actually got like okay, but they weren't amazing. Then they decided to turn into gods for like against Team Heretics and for 2 maps against Vitality. And then they, kind of went back to the okay version, let's say, of Liquid. And so for me, this was still them getting beat by not necessarily like final form Liquid. And so I was quite disappointed. And I think that they didn't like the Fnatic game. I think, yeah, okay, I'll grant you that one. I think that they clearly looked like the better team. They looked like a good team, I would say, in that game. But then I'm thinking about their other games, and okay, I mean, Vitality were playing God mode against them, so that's a little unfair maybe as well. But like over the course of like all of their games, they maybe played one good game by their standards, and then like a couple okay, and then the last game maybe not even not so good. So are they a bad team? No, they are the honest team. They are the honest. We're the fourth best team, always.
Yeah,
if they were honest, they would have beaten Liquid the second time. That was dishonest of them.
True. But they have that. Maybe they have that kind of talent where they average out as like a third, fourth team.
The thing is that like even the most honest person fails sometimes. Like Eve bit the apple. It happens. You fall to temptations at different times in your life. But to me, I still felt like this Foot team overall, they performed exactly to my expectations. They're going to be a top 4 EMEA team. They're going to play a similar style to what they've played. Zeus is going to be a pretty good addition to the squad, and they even exceeded my expectations a little bit in, I think, trying out a few new comps compared to what I thought they might do, just playing old stuff like other teams have done. They implemented the Yoru on a couple maps, which I thought was a really good looking role for Zeus on this team. So I don't know. Team Liquid may be dishonest. We may all have our hate masks on for them and want to be mad at Foot for losing to them. But
that's the thing.
This was the ultimate Foot tournament. This was the most Foot tournament ever.
This whole segment's going to be defined by Liquid, though. We're going to go through this whole narrative arc. They are clearly the main character in EMEA. Yeah. So, like, everything that we talk about will just come back to them, almost certainly.
Well, one of the teams I feel that... Yeah, you know what? Can we jump ahead to Liquid? Because you are right. Yeah. Everything, it all comes back to Liquid. It really does. Because all of these teams that you have higher expectations for, like Heretics, for example... There is a story within the Foot story, and there is a story within the Heretics story, especially for Heretics, I think. But what the fuck is going on with Liquid, man? They started out as a comedy team. They started out as just a light bit of entertainment where you would tune in to watch them just slop around in the mud. Their win against Koi was their opening 2 matches where they played against Koi and Apex. In fact, they're opening 3 matches because also the game against Foot was incredibly entertaining to watch too because of all of their floundering. Those were some bad games, those opening 3 matches. But maybe it's... So I've got a couple of different theories. TMV's already discussed the arc of Gluquid to decent to gods to not quite being able to finish it out. Couple of theories. One theory is that they were just very nervous at the beginning. They talked about in their opening match that they were very nervous. And that was what they had said publicly was the reason that they performed
And we know
badly.
There's nothing more stressful you can do in a match than place a Sage Wall. So that tracks a lot.
I mean, yeah,
literally, let's be clear. Playing Sage in VCT, you're braver than the US Marines.
So that did seem... They seemed shook. The Sage Walls were not good, but it wasn't just the Sage Walls. They were fumbling all over the place with everything. And so, do you buy that it was just kind of they got enough reps underneath them for the nerves to disappear? Because certainly once they got to the later games, not only were they frying on an individual level, but they were confident to go for plays against even the best, like Heretics, like Vitality.
I think their opening foot game, I could write off. They're like where they lost a foot, went down to the lower bracket. I feel like you could write that off as nerves because they kind of got cooked. It looked like they were really playing alone. Players were whiffing a lot of shots. Like Foot just played their classic style and managed to kind of dismantle them with ease for the most part in that series. I think you could chalk it up to that. But the way that they kind of built into the lower bracket throughout their games discounts that, because if it was all nerves, if it was all just a silly funny time, why then was the BBL Team Liquid game such an absolute unrequited mudfest before they went on to be pretty good in the next few series?
But then the one before that wasn't. The one before that wasn't.
But it was against Giant X, and that's like it's a lot easier to dodge the mud when it's just a little puddle, you know?
Yeah, Giants are a fairly standard team, but like so are Foot. It should be easy to dodge the mud in a Foot game too, and yet they caused the mud themselves. You know, you can't always blame the other team. Giants are a basic team, but Liquid only had, I think, one silly round in their win against Giants, and that was when you were like, "Oh, we've lost the comedy," and they brought it back to their credit a little bit. They did. They brought back a little bit of the comedy in the game against BBL, but they still got the victory. I don't know. I can't get a read on this team, man.
I honestly think someone at Team Liquid did something horrible a long time ago, and they have the 1,000-year curse of Raw that no Liquid fan can ever just be happy and enjoy good Valorant watching this.
Well,
team.
maybe did it die off halfway through the lower bracket?
Yeah, it faded out. The 100 years. It disappeared finally.
Faded, and then someone else did something after map 2 of the best of 5 against Vitality. My theory, I've put a little link in the show notes, Kurt, to team. I'm about to go on a little tirade. I mean, I'm gonna fucking roast every NA team aside from Sentinels in a second, because this is a tweet by Bo, right? And Liquid have an academy team, okay? And I was big on the fact that, you know, academy teams are now a thing. You know, I mean, Chobi, you might know this about some of the Pacific Korean teams as well, because they all have academy teams. And he said, don't know how much, if you go scroll up to the top tweet from Bodork here. Don't know how much Team Liquid practice against their academy team, but both seem to be improving match after match, week after week. So there's got to be some correlation there. And then so he tags asking the coaches, and Cupid responds, 4 scrims a day against each other. We don't scrim other teams. Right, and this was my thing, and I was saying this during the offseason, right? Because what team improved the most in one season in VCT history? Oh yes, EG in 2023, the team that lost 13-0 and then went on to win champs. I wonder how they got so much better. It's as if Sideshow did an interview with maybe their coach and their IGL, asking them, how did you get so much better? Oh, well, we have a 10-man roster, so we scrim against that team, and we run drills. And Boostio says, oh yeah, it's boring, but now we're good, so it's worth it. And at the time, it made sense that no one else would have a 10-man roster, because I think at the time, the rules said you had to pay all of those players minimum wage, right? They had to pay the minimum salary for all those players. So it was quite costly to have a 10-man roster, right, for EG that year. But now, there's academy teams that you don't have to pay the minimum roster salary to. And you can just exist in tier 2. And they can't get ascended, and they can't get relegated. So their results don't even matter that much. It's a free fucking chance to run actual practice. Most of these teams in VCT don't know what they're fucking doing. Any team without an academy team has no fucking clue what they're doing. Because there is a proven strategy that you know EG did and improved a ton. I mean, now Liquid are proving to you that they got much better in a very short space amount of time because they're scrimming against their academy team. Because you can run fucking drills, you can have your academy team play whatever comp your opponent is about to play on a map, you can scout, you can get many more reps of actual good practice, but most of these fucking teams have no clue. Any team without an academy team, you just know that they're trolling. And for some teams that do have an academy team, like the Pacific teams here, like say, for instance, Global Esports, they do have an academy team, but I assume that they're in India, right? So maybe you can't scrim against them because you're in Korea, they're in India, it doesn't work ping. Same for like some of the South American teams. But if you're a team that is close to the location of VCT, if you're a North American team and you don't have an academy team, which is all of them but Sentinels, You have no fucking clue what you're doing. Your coaches are doing like 50% of the role of coaching because you're not actually coaching. Because if you knew about coaching, you would know the theory of coaching is that it's important that you give direct feedback straight away when something happens. You would know that it's important to run drills over and over again to improve. That not just scrimming a normal game is how you get better at this game or any skill in the world. There is a ton of research on this that you could use if you want to, and yet only one team in NA has an academy team, and only like 4 do an EMEA as well, when they all could. So if you don't have an academy team, what the fuck are you doing?
I just want to add, I don't have proof about the academy teams right now in Korea, but RRQ used to always do scrims with their game changers. How the fuck do you make this
about RRQ? That is befuddling. Okay.
I'm a very passionate. But they used to always do, I think it's like 2 scrims on match day with their game changers team to do drills before going into their game last year.
No, but you're not helping my point because they haven't ever.
They improved last year. What do you mean?
I'm looking for good teams, Joe.
No, you're looking for all teams. That's the point, right? Is that you're looking actually for all teams to try to access this tool.
But there's no reason not to now. That's the thing. Before there was a reason not to. Now there's no reason not to, unless you just don't know what you're doing.
I think there is some reason to not go fully into what Liquid are doing, where they say we're not scrimming against any other teams.
Yeah,
I think at the start of a year, you kind of want to access other ideas as well. Like one of the big things that you get from scrims is looking at how other teams play. But when Liquid have also played 8 matches or something on this run. How many matches did they play? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 matches, including 2 BO5s. They're getting plenty of experience against other Tier 1 teams. So I can understand it entirely why they would just need to run the like academy drill kind of stuff after that.
Sorry about that.
So you reckon?
The show a little bit.
No, I like it. I like it. Because it is remarkable how much practice in esports comes down to just literally doing the match over and over again. We don't have a very developed, I think, practice.
I mean, I always go back thinking about the people on my degree and thinking about the coaches there. If I told them how much these people were getting paid and how they practice, they would lose their fucking minds. They would actually not believe that like you could have, you could have amateur football sports have way better practice protocols than esports teams getting paid thousands.
Well, it's because it's been around for hundreds of years as well.
Yeah, no, but like, how have we not like tapped into the knowledge of traditional sports? Like, if you're an esports, like, how are you not tapping into like, oh, how do you practice? Can we take those ideas? And the thing, as I say, like, there is research out there. You know, there's like studies. There are studies. They exist. I had to do it for my degree. I've seen them. I'm telling you that, like, obviously the best way to practice is not just to fucking run a game over and over and over again. Like like no one would no one practices like that in any sport.
I mean, that's also how most players practice in their ranked games too. So they're just running ranked games over and over and over. But you know, I agree. There's a lot of optimization there, and the academy.
No, yeah, but that's the thing. Like before, you could argue, well, there is no way of doing it because we either have to pay a fuck ton of money to other people, and we don't have the money, or you know, there's no general way of getting 10 people so that we can do this. But now there is, and so it just doesn't make any sense. But I do think that this is a big reason why Liquid have gotten better. In fact, before I even saw this tweet, I thought, well, they've got an academy team, so I wonder if they're doing that, and then they are. Because it makes sense.
Well, they announced the academy team fairly late, actually, as well. So I thought they maybe had not got pieces in place yet, but it's very interesting to see that they are heavily indexing into that. Do you think that this is going to continue? So what we saw from Liquid, I mean, let's go into the Heretics game first, right? Let's talk about their 2 BO5s, because that's something that we haven't fully discussed yet. But Heretics game, they shit on them. They absolutely took a fat steaming turd all over Team Heretics. And we could talk about the Heretics side of things later, but I just want to focus on what Liquid were doing in the match. They were, in both of these BO5s, incredibly proactive. Always the player on Team Liquid, or the couple of players on Team Liquid, were the ones to make the play. So they're picking timings. A lot of it's quite timings based, and like they read on the game. But they're always being the one to go for the action. they don't feel to me like the kind of team that has, you know, the perfect crossfire shutdown to stop an exec from coming through. They're the team that's gonna like actually try to catch you as you're setting up for the exec, or be re-clearing the opposite side of the map as they realize you're going into an exec. These kind of ideas, or Nats will be hiding inside a smoke as you execute and find the timing to like dodge a flash and then swing out and kill 3 of you. It's like these kind of things that are the result of Team Liquid's dominant success in this match, I would say.
Yeah, they're so it was like a mix of like they're so confident that everyone feels like they can take risks on their own. You know, like they have the confidence to just, you know, oh, I'm gonna push mid on my own, right? And find that timing, right? But then also they're all individually frying, so they rarely get punished for it as well, right? Because they'll win whatever fight. If a fight does come their way, they'll win it because they were all just playing so well. And you can say the inverse is true for Team Heretics, and I'm sure we'll get onto that. That they were it was like a mirror image of the most confident team in the world versus the least confident team in the world this game. But yeah, it was truly unbelievable just watching them, and for the first 2 maps against Vitality as well. Just like play a style of just like awoken Valorant, you know, the Avatar state Valorant for all these players. Like they just went crazy.
Yeah, I think it's honestly now, as we're talking about it, it almost feels like a more structured, like old Paper Rex kind of tone, right? Where it's them like taking the fights, but they are coordinated where they're going together. But it's not that they're setting up just trap plays and just set executes. But I would argue that, you know, I guess if there's any concern, and I think maybe we saw a little bit of it in the grand finals, is that a playstyle like that suffers when you do get shut down 1 or 2 times, right? Because then like 1 or 2 people start shying away, and then other people start overextending a bit more to cover that space, and you know, there's a domino effect a little bit unless you have other plays to rely on. But yeah, I mean, I like that you mentioned, Sideshow, that it felt very timing based, because I think that's really what it was. So if they have good ante, right, if they have good prep, like they'll just have the timings to swing out confidently because they know, like, we know this guy's here at this moment, or we know how they react off of this util.
And the prep stuff, just to interrupt slightly, the prep stuff came through massively on Fracture in particular, from what I was watching in the Team Liquid Heretics game, and they looked very, very prepped with ante in the game against Vitality too on those first couple maps. They knew what was going on from their opponents.
Yeah, so I think you know, it'll be kind of that situation where maybe the first couple games of Masters we still see a similar level, but the question becomes like, how much can you do that throughout a whole league or a whole tournament?
But the thing is that what kind of matters in back-to-back tournament formats is just like staying hot, and if they can find even anything close to this form going into Masters, I want to believe that someone is going to finally put the horse down, but that inevitability is feeling less and less likely as this team has kind of built up their momentum. And you guys are right. Like, what we hated on them for at the beginning, I think rightfully so, was them trying to go into a lot more set stuff, trying to go for executes with the Sage Wall, do all this stuff together, and just fumbling with their utility, making mistakes there, not playing off each other well. In these last couple of games, it really feels like they've simplified their ideas a lot. They're like, okay, we have some good prep on what our opponent is going to do. We're just going to play together. We're going to trade each other out. And our individuals are going to have so much more confidence, and I think feel so much more emboldened to take those risks, make those plays when they see the opportunities. And they just got in a mad flow state that they've ran all the way through this lower bracket.
It should be said as well, though, that Kiko, even when Gluquid would turn up, Kiko, this whole tournament, is he still, was he the highest rated EMEA player? I think he was, right?
Must have been.
He was going into the grand final. I don't know about
I mean, yeah, he is by a way, actually, just looking at it now. Yeah. And he was just, I mean, that obviously helps when you turn like a, you know, an average level player, let's say last year, and that might even be kind, to be honest, to the literal best player in EMEA. Like, obviously, yeah, that's gonna really help any team, you know, when you can just get one of the best players, right? It's like, you know, adding Karen into Gen.G, right? Or Texture becoming the GOAT, right? Like last year, like, yeah, that's obviously gonna make you better when you've got someone who's just absolutely frying. Jesus, that last round.
It's so awesome as well, though, to see Paditek overtaking Heretics to go to Masters Bangkok. I mean, that is remarkable stuff. because he was the super sub for them all last year. He did such a great job integrating with the rest of the team whenever the team needed him. They didn't have a better win rate with Paddy. They were not a better team with Paddy Tech. That was almost an objective truth. But here, he and the rest of the team have been able to find a run of form that vastly overtook what Team Heretics were capable of at the moment.
I mean, they weren't a better team, but they were still a good team with him on the roster, and that
amazing,
run at Shanghai would not have been anywhere near possible without a guy as good as him integrating into the team. So it must have felt really amazing for him to get to kind of prove himself in this game, and get to do that now going into international tournament again.
Kiko feels to me like watching a bit of Demon 1 play Smokes last year, where he doesn't feel like Karen, where I feel like Karen was very movement-based in terms of how he was getting a lot of his kills. Karen's movement is spectacular, and he takes a lot of like scrappy fights from mid to close range, relying on his movement to be able to outplay people, and he's got great aim too. Kiko is going to be like, he has this smooth, calm style of aiming, and he's super precise with these just long-range adjustments onto people's heads, where it looks like he can't miss. Like, you're just watching him, and you're like, holy shit, this guy is like aimbotting. It's ridiculous. It really does remind me of the excellent mechanics that you get from somebody like Demon 1 on Smokes, or at least, you know, from a couple of years back. It's remarkable to watch, and it wasn't only Kiko in good form, because Kamek also was mad impressive in, especially like towards the end of their run, I think, and especially after making the changeover onto the running mostly Tejo stuff as well. But whenever they play double duelist too with this team, with like Kiko and Camo, yeah, the triple threat that this team has from those three players is pretty great. I was about to say the triple K.
You were gonna. I knew exactly the pause in your voice. You were gonna say the triple Ks. I love.
Yeah, and that's we should never be doing that, should we? So let's. Yeah,
you're still
that's
in America,
pity.
buddy.
That's a pity, because it would make a nice little like.
Can we move on?
Thing to string through there?
Let's talk.
Look,
can we
Kiko
talk
gets
about?
a 4K in this round. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah,
It
that's
is
wild.
really good. Yeah. Yeah, but Team Liquid have got some good talent. I think that they've been able to find the best spots for the talent as well. Like, it was a good decision to put Kiko onto mostly playing Smokes, for example. Not a fan of the Reyna on Lotus though, but
Yeah,
overall,
that comp is some sick shit.
Yeah.
I can see it again. I'll watch one more match of it. I'm down for one more match of it. Opening match of Bangkok. I'm down to watch it one more time.
Watching it twice was enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. Should we get on to Team Heretics though? I want to talk about Heretics for a while, because my take with Heretics. So Heretics bombed out. They didn't make an international event this time, but the manner in which they didn't is more impressive. They got 4 rounds on Lotus, 4 rounds on Abyss, and only put together 7 rounds on the third map against Team Liquid as well, on Fracture. The best performance was 7 rounds against Team Liquid in one of the maps, which is tragic. And that was coming off the back of getting slapped around by Team Vitality as well in the upper bracket, where first map was fairly close, but then they got beaten 13-1. And also, the first map wasn't even really close, with Heretics playing against Vitality. They just had a run in the middle, like the beginning and the end.
Strange.
It was a weird one, but it says 13-10, and you're like, oh well, that must have been really close. Well, yeah, Heretics won 10 rounds, I think 10 in a row or something, didn't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. So they won those 9 rounds in a row in the middle of the game, but apart from that, they were kind of getting crushed, honestly. And then they got 13-1 afterwards too. So I was full of hope for Heretics. Their opening match was honestly not that great when they played against Gentle Mates. But I was like, well, they're sick, and they haven't practiced Abyss. So there's plenty of cope to go around, tons of it. But honestly, they didn't really show us a single match in this run that justified our belief in them. It was all based on last year.
Yep.
That's fair. And I think when you look at it was funny at the end of the Abyss game against Vitality when it was 13-1, there was like I think there was a clip of Neil Zenio at one point like saying, well, we knew one of us was gonna get battered or something like that. Like we knew one of us was gonna get destroyed. And they were just kind of laughing about it in the coaching booth. But yeah, it was the Vitality game was strange because it was like the Heretics that we saw in both the Liquid game and like Abyss and for most of Haven was just this team who were just a complete shell of themselves. And then they randomly turned into Team Heretics for like 9 rounds. And then they instantly reverted back to just, we're now a shell again. And we don't know what we're doing. And the lack of confidence was, I think, a big deal. And I don't know why they were so, I don't know why. Maybe after getting beat 13-1 by Vitality, they were just like, oh, we maybe that just shook them. I don't know. But like they just couldn't win. They couldn't aim in a lot of these. Like it was strange that like normally you don't say like, oh, they're all of a team's aim is just off. You might have one player who has like, a bad game or something. It's like the whole team.
It looked like the entire team's confidence got like sucked out of them. Like the best example for me was like Gen.G Fishy on the attack side throughout that series. Like every time he would take like a lurk timing or like something like that. And it normally, like when we're talking about their run last year, he was so good for those. He died pretty much every single time. He was 0 for 7 in opening kills that map. He was just getting absolutely peppered this series. And it felt that way with pretty much every player.
Gen.G Fishy had a bottom 5 rating for the whole tournament.
That's insane. After being a top 5 player last year.
Yeah, and probably, definitely a top 2 Sentinel player last year, right? It was him and Chishu, wasn't it?
Yep.
Am I forgetting somebody?
Meteor.
Yeah, for sure. No, I did.
But yeah, like top 3 for sure, right? Like top depending on what you're looking for, yeah.
Kurt, if you can just go to round 15 of Liquid Heretics on Abyss, like I think that's a good showcase of just.
Is that the one I sent as well?
I don't know, but like.
Yes. Is this Woot?
Yeah. where like they just like you tell me that this is a pro. Like it just it's like what like what, and then the whole thing is just like it shows Liquid off pretty well as well, of like going for a proactive idea and getting rewarded for it, and Kiko getting like 3 kills. It's quite a good example of like Liquid good and Heretics like just getting. I don't even know, like just being a husk, a shell of a husk, not even a shell of a husk, a shell of a shell of a shell of a husk.
Did you say round 16? Sorry,
15.
Round 15. Round 15.
Right, one moment.
You can use my link if you want and rewind just a couple seconds to the start of the round. But yeah, it's like you look at this round and it's literally the copy pasta like in Valorant form of like shots 1 through 5 missed, like shots 6 to 10 like missed to recoil. Like it's just like it can't be possible. You're watching this and you're looking at it from the guy who's supposed to die, like his POV, and
it's like why is he dying? How is he not dead? How is he not dead? Yeah.
And I honestly am very curious. Like what I don't know. Like it's in some ways it's kind of similar to the whole T1 situation where it's like, well, if it was just illness, then surely we would have heard about it at the very least. Like whether it's an excuse.
Oh, it was this one.
Yeah, but like that's a lot of bullets.
That's a lot of bullets.
And it is very proactive, isn't it? This is the kind of stuff that Liquid was getting all the time, which is they're finding a timing as Team Heretics go for the retake. Team Liquid were ahead of everybody. I mean, in the grand finals, the first 2 maps as well, Team Liquid were finding those timings on Vitality too, when Vitality were faster than almost everybody else for the rest of the tournament to make decisions. So I do think there's something great about the way that Liquid are reading the tempo of the game, because they're finding these perfect timing-based plays, but you still expect the Heretics to trade.
Yeah, I like that it's like they're finding a lot of timings, but the later we've gotten in the tournament, it's been less like individualism where it's like just like one person making the play. I think like as an entire team, they're doing a really good job of like identifying those moments and like just team fighting in together and trading off each other, which I feel like that coordination was so lacking. That coordination and honestly that confidence too was so lacking earlier in their EMEA run.
Yeah, they're often doing it with 2 or 3 players.
The question will be though going forward, like okay, yeah, they had like a terrible couple games, but like are we worried about stage 1? Like at what point do we start, like if they have a bad first game in stage 1, do we just have to start accepting like, oh, maybe this team, maybe they've lost whatever magic they had, or they
I don't think so.
You wouldn't be worried?
You think Benji Fishy, after an elite Fortnite career, coming back looking like coming into Valorant, grinding up from tier 2, making it to tier 1, getting to multiple grand finals, you think he's just going to be a bottom 5 player for the year?
He's a millionaire. It's fine.
I just don't believe
he can
fundamentally.
Retire happy.
Yeah, but like
no,
I just don't
believe
that, these players are going to be bad for long enough that it's going to matter for an entire stage.
No, I don't think they'll be bad. I think the bigger concern is like, can they figure out their team like system again, right? Like what works for them. But on that note, I would say I don't think it's time to panic yet, just because I think from what we've seen, we should trust that the coaching staff is capable of figuring that out with time, and there is a lot of time right now that they're not going to Masters, and I think like they were also one of those teams that like had to grind like nonstop last year. So it's like, okay. And they talked about it where they're like, oh yeah, we're kind of getting burnt out or whatever. So it's like, okay, well now finally, like here's your chance. And you can remedy that and figure out a new system. Because I think there was, I forget if it was us talking or maybe there was a post somewhere about how like teams that didn't make roster changes eventually also got knocked out in most of the kickoffs other than obviously EDG. So EDG and Trace. So it's like, maybe there's something there where you're like, well, you thought you still were at the top, and then these new rosters show up with new players and new talent and new systems and new comps. And now you're like, okay, we've never really felt that we've had to be this shaken before at a tournament like Kickoff. So, hopefully this time. But I think with the time, yeah, I think you wait for stage 1 and you can still have hope if you're a fan.
I mean, I'm not like a doomer. I just think like this performance was so bad that it's like, they would have lost to pretty much anyone. That's how bad this was. Like, almost anyone would have beat them playing like this in a best of 5.
2G.
I was...
well, thankfully they can't play 2G in an EMEA best of 5, but...
it is a bit absurd that they got 3rd place in this whilst only beating Gentlemates and BBL.
That's awesome, actually.
Like, that's kind of crazy, isn't it?
What are you implying, Josh?
But in those games, they didn't play this bad.
Yeah, that's the thing.
No,
they weren't good,
this bad.
But they were.
But their General Maids game, their Abyss performance was
but
this
they
bad.
couldn't play Abyss. They just didn't know how to play Abyss. I think we can accept that their Abyss clearly. I mean, lucky for them, Abyss is rotating out.
It's gonna be gone by the next time we see it.
They don't have to worry about it anymore. They can literally just throw that map in the bin and never worry about it ever again. But I think the like long term, because this to me is just like it's all mental. It's all mental. Yeah. This was a mental game.
Oh god.
Like it was all in their head.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to talking about Vitality then. So Vitality, they are clearly the best team in EMEA up until the grand final.
Are we not going to show the clips? You're not going to show the team like clips?
Okay. Well, we're talking about Liquid to some degree here as well. So let's talk the first couple maps, right, where Liquid were doing really well, and then we can show the clip. That I think will be a good way of doing it.
I don't think we need to show the clips, personally.
No, I think we need to show the clips.
I don't think we need to show the clips.
I think people need to see
Josh,
the clips.
we have a meeting in an hour. We have a meeting in the hour. Maybe we should just skip this last topic and move on to Americas and get rid of TMV?
I don't think so, actually. Maybe we should skip Americas and make sure that we get this clip showcase.
Wait, what is this?
No, I will not be covering myself in glue if Team Liquid go to Bangkok.
They're not going to make it. You should make that bet. That is a safe bet.
I
will fucking...
They are 1-0 up in maps here. They would be in the top 4.
I will glue myself to my chair if Team Liquid make it there. I swear to God.
Well, there we have it.
I swear to God. And my big thing is I would not forsake God, so I will glue myself to my chair.
Right.
I'll do it.
Well, do you have the glue now,
I don't
or are
have
we
glue
talking
on
on the
hand.
broadcast?
I'll do it on the broadcast.
On the broadcast for Masters Bangkok for a
if they
Liquid
let me.
game, you will
And if
glue
not, I'll
yourself
do it when
to a
I get
chair.
home.
Right. Okay.
Well, I think the funniest outcome is I glue myself to the chair for the entirety of Liquid's first match.
Game, yeah.
I think that's fun.
The people wouldn't even know.
No, it wouldn't be any different. What
is
is
this you eating glue?
No, that's not glue. That's a chapstick.
Why did you do
Wait,
that?
chapstick tastes good though. Why are you recoiling like that?
See, you are very wrong about that, Mimi. I would not recommend eat. So
If
people
you
will
ever
like.
want to eat chapstick, check out the little like EOS ones. They come in the little round container at Walgreens.
Surely
the
we shouldn't be
peppermint one is
advising-
fucking
Why don't you?
scrumptious.
Don't
if you're at
advise our
Walgreens,
audience
just buy
on-
Right,
That's a really good point, Kurt. That's a really good
Let
Why
point.
me
were you
explain-
eating chapstick?
Look,
We've
let me
all done
explain.
things we
Let me
regret.
explain. So obviously Team Liquid make Bangkok, and everyone's like, TMV, you said this team was glue. Go and eat glue. And I was like, no, I'm not going to eat glue. And then they just kept saying it. I was like, I don't have any glue. So I looked around my house, and I didn't have any glue, but I had a chapstick. And I thought, actually, a chapstick, like...
Looks a bit like a
I mean, it
pig
goes
stick.
on your lips. It goes on your lips anyway, so you can probably eat it, and it doesn't say it's not safe to eat and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, go on, and then eventually I was like, I'll do it. So I did it, and then initially, and it smelled very nice as well, right? It was strawberry,
Sure.
like it smelled delicious. So I was like, 70% of taste or whatever is in the smell, so it won't even taste that bad. So I take a bite, and I'm like, oh, I've scammed the chat here. This isn't even that bad. I take the bite, I then chew. And when I decide to chew, oh my god, my brain just went. Look, there, I'm trying to build up the confidence to do it. I do it, and initially I'm like, I've scammed them, and then I do this, and I'm like, they've scammed me. They've scammed me because it was horrible. It was horrible, and not only was it horrible, but then as I'm trying to get rid of it, obviously it's chapstick. So as I've chewed, it's just like gone like all over my teeth, and I can't get rid of the taste of it. And I would not recommend it to anyone. I don't know what. Maybe you're a Team Gluquid fan. Maybe you've been raised to
I am
enjoy
a
this kind of
fan.
stuff. But I would not recommend it to any sane person, at least, because
Insane
I did
people
not
though,
enjoy
check it out for real.
Yeah. Yeah. But I did think you would question this, Josh, and go, why would you do such a thing? So I gave Kurt some clips of some of the things that you and Bren have done.
No, I mean,
just-
obviously we don't need to look at those either.
I
mean,
just thought the people, because I didn't know some of these existed, so I just thought the people might
Just
want
a
to
little context for the
just a little
viewers.
look back at some of the things maybe that you and Bren have done back in the day.
and
this.
what on earth was wrong with this? I mean, we crushed this. I'm not gonna lie, we crushed.
I love Bren in this. He's trying so hard. He's trying so hard to get it right. Yeah, but
Why
I
really
didn't know
put
this
it
in his A
existed.
game.
So.
Wait, what's
Why
your
do our
problem with
skirts
this?
not
TMV?
match? I mean,
I think they look great.
I think I
TMV.
wrote that. I mean, I thought you were gonna pull up me like eating stuff.
Well, there's this
'cause-
one for Bren as well. Bren isn't here to defend himself for this. Do you remember this side?
Friends
I
in the
do,
chat
right now. We were watching this earlier, and I just like what does it take for just full-grown men to turn into this? Like, what is
Why
going
didn't you join in, Josh? Why were you just the
I had
cameraman?
someone had to do the camera work, didn't they? Someone had to do it. Shall we talk Valorant again?
Do you have any more clips, TMV?
I just didn't want to be the most deprived on the depraved on the show. I thought, normally
No,
it's you
I
or
mean,
Bren,
you,
so I thought
you didn't
I'd
find
make
the
it
video of me eating a bull's cock. So that was the other one as well. Dried out bull penis. Boiled it until it was
Why would
chewable.
you dry it out?
No, you buy it dried out. It's a dog treat. They use
a
bull
dog-
penis.
You
a dog
fucking
treat.
wait! You boiled like
dog
a
treat.
fucking bully stick? Oh Jesus Christ! Those are so fucking disgusting. For
Yeah, they
context,
are.
I used to work in a pet store, and we would get like massive fucking quantities of those in that, and like dried like lamb's lung, and I'd have to fucking like weigh them out into individual bags, and that was my fucking least favorite task because you would just
Oh,
like
yeah.
smell of dried meat, and there'd be like
not even
crusty
dried meat. I
everywhere.
would
It's
say-
so fucking disgusting.
I
And
would
you
say after I
ate
boiled
it.
Let's
it
let
for
the
5
experts
You
hours.
talk.
sick fuck.
After I boiled it for 5 hours, my entire apartment, to try to get it, well, because it's very dry.
Imagine the smell.
Yeah, the
Imagine
smell must have
smell.
My
been
entire
pungent.
apartment smelled a little bit like dog food and a little bit like cock. So it was like, it had both. It had both. But glad you didn't find that video. So let's talk Vitality though. Let's talk the grand finals, right? Because my God, actually, in some sense, it's a great grand finals. A reverse sweep for Vitality. A sick performance from both teams. In some sense, a bit of a shit one. A bit like Americas though, because none of the maps were good. Like no individual map was actually a good map. They were all a bit blowout. But holy shit, Liquid had me scared with these first two because they cooked. This one looks, I guess, better than it felt when I was watching it. It didn't feel like there was a chance for Vitality to actually win on split, but they did make a bit of a run back in the second half. Maybe it was because they were up 11-3. You just know the chances are so slim. But they were frying map 1, map 2. It was more of the same. I think we've talked about a lot of Team Liquid, but from Vitality's point of view, they were getting caught by all the timing-based plays. Something that I thought was amazing from Vitality, from what we'd watched in Kickoff, was that they were so quick to come up with decisions, to adapt to things, to anticipate their opponent. And that felt like it was missing in maps 1 and 2. I don't know whether you would account that to nerves or just Team Liquid's like being more bold than Vitality were expecting. But it didn't feel like watching normal Vitality in that opening.
Yeah. I think actually now that we've discussed how Heretics looked, there must be something about having to play against the Liquid who's proactive and knows your timings, because basically Vitality was looking the same way, where it's like 4 people waiting to do a retake on split on like a heavy. I don't remember the round, but they're like waiting and they're all looking the same direction because they're just assuming that no one's going to peek them. And then Team Liquid just comes and cleans them up, right? So there must be something there, but they basically, Team Liquid made Vitality look the exact same as Heretics for those first 2 maps, and it must be a thing where it breaks down the comms a little bit of teams who have been just going in the flow state, and so once it breaks down a little bit, they're like, okay, we have to pause, we have to regroup, and figure out who's doing what, and then Liquid's already there.
Yeah, it was... I mean, we were talking about it when we were co-streaming, like, especially on Split, it felt like every Team Vitality retake was like some ponderous chore that they could barely be bothered to do. Whilst Team Liquid would be, running, zipping around. I do think this game changed partly because Lotus was map 3 and Team Liquid's comp. And because Vitality knew how to deal with that comp, and then that gave them the kind of confidence to be like, oh yeah, shit, we know how to play this game. And, from there kind of carry on. I do almost
this was like
wonder,
a stat
had this
pad
been
map.
Yeah, I do wonder though if it was a different map and Liquid were playing, a more serious comp that had a chance. Would a Vitality kind of got out of that malaise? But I do think that this comp, they probably looked at it and thought, right, they will have come up with a plan for when, Liquid won and they'd seen this comp, they'll go, okay, we can abuse this, knowing that they have the double map ban, knowing that Lotus will be played. And I think that, they abused it on the attack side, and we got back to old Vitality. And then in the last 2 maps, I think the kind of quality showed of what... I mean, Liquid are still perhaps overperforming our initial expectations, but what perhaps we even thought coming into this game of like, yeah, but Vitality are going to be a better team. They've got such a stacked roster. They've looked, as you say, so far. Like for the rest of Kickoff, Vitality looked very in control of pretty much every game they'd been in, other than maybe actually their first game against Carmine Core. But every other game, they'd looked like the better team, and that's kind of what these last 3 maps felt like. It felt like we just returned back to the normal times.
I don't know if I'm crazy, but I kind of feel like to some extent, like this was a good outcome for Vitality to like have the one game that brings you back down to earth a little, like be exposed for some of your issues, kind of like figure out the slow starting stuff, but still come back and win the series and still look in really good form heading into the international event. I feel like in some ways that's almost better than just coming in like fully stomping your way through everyone, not a care in the world, and like having that kind of humbling at the event. But yeah, it really just looked like these last 3 maps that it was just Vitality back to business as usual, finding themselves like Les and Durka looked like they were back to any situation you put them in, they could just win the round single-handedly. The team play was back on point. I thought that the maps where we see Safe playing on Vise, he looks really, really good on that role. I think he has a variety of different setups that he's running. He plays really well around it, and I think that's a really nice tool for Vitality to have as well.
I think Les and Safe are definitely the two players that I would be looking at the most who improved over the course of the series. Les actually dropped 20 kills on map 1, but on the side that they basically lost the game, right? Because again, map 1, they go down 9-3 at the beginning and then lose pistol. On that side, Les had 3 kills. So on defense, playing Viper, he went 3-11. And then he got 17 kills trying to like run the game back after they were already down 11-3, like trying to do the reverse loud lock-in performance. But I think overall, he hadn't had impact when it actually mattered for them up until about Lotus. Second half of Lotus, he turned it on and then he was like, I am now a fucking killing machine and cannot be stopped. And it was like classic Les kind of level stuff. And I'm not sure whether Safe came in a little shaken by some of the macro stuff or what, but he also had a really rough beginning to the series. Couldn't find a kill on split. He did start to get some value when he was playing on the ISO, but I think that was a bit of a compositional difference as well. It's hard to draw a trend from only 2 matches where we've seen it, but we have seen twice now in 2 finals a ISO Yoru comp go up against a Breach Tejo comp on Haven. And I'm wondering if this is one of the things that Vitality will take away from this match, is that actually the Breach Tejo comps can be really, really good on Haven. And they, to some degree, actually counter the double duelist comps, because the double duelists have to be very obvious about where they're going, and then you give great timings for the Breach Tejo to whack you with util.
Dude, that's kind of fucked up. This only got proved to you in this match and not in our ranked games where I insisted we played Breach Tail on Haven, and you told me that, are you sure that's a good comp on Haven? And I was like, yeah, it is, and we should play it because it's really strong. And then
now,
you were like,
I don't
no.
think we should
and then
be
we
playing
won that
ranked
game.
I'll tell you what, not only did the ranked games not prove it, but the Americas Grand Finals didn't prove it either, because Team Sentinels, Team Sentinels Esports, they didn't have a clue what they were doing with the Yoru ISO comp either. But I've seen I've seen Vitality play that composition really well in the past, and I think they, on their attack side, were struggling still to find their ways of being able to run execs into Breach Tejo. So I could see them changing their Haven comp. Because, I mean, they're super happy to play a Breach Tejo, I reckon.
Yeah. But what did this game, like, where do we come, like, I'm interested to know where people think Vitality are now, like, worldwide. Did this dampen some of the expectations of Vitality a bit? The fact that they look kind of lost for 2 maps against Liquid, or is this?
I'm still kind of cope maxing that they're like a top 3 team. Like,
oh, whoa! But top 3
or top
was
2.
Never the discussion. It was whether they were
I'm thinking like,
top
like
1, wasn't it?
Are they challenging G2 still?
I think sorry. Top 3 was a lie. Top 2 is where I have them. I have them below G2. That was where that was my power rankings going in. That's mine coming out after seeing both of these regions finals.
Mine's definitely been dampened a little bit, just because it's shown that you can prep against them, and then they'll take some time to adjust in game. Like it's their firepower plus their prep that gets them going, like against a team where they're already ahead. And obviously it's a best of 5, so it helps a little bit. But you know, if it's a best of 3 and someone comes in super well prepared and they're matching your firepower somewhat, or maybe on certain maps they're even fragging out better than you, then obviously they would have struggled a lot more. So I think it's dampened a little bit just because I didn't think that would happen at all during kickoff. But I expect them to obviously remedy that, just given the quality of players they have. And maybe they'll course correct it for Masters, but it's not like a sure thing anymore for me.
They have so many players who turn up in big moments. If you're talking about like going to an international event and being worried that some of these teams might be inexperienced or choking or whatever, all right, these are veteran players, but also when you're looking at people like Durka and when you're looking at people like Les, those two in particular that this team just picked up are big game players. They tend to perform better in big, important matches. Safe, I'm not 100% sure about, because he has had some teams that underperformed at really important moments or in really like big international events. But I suspect that this team will be generally good under pressure. And I think the Swiss stage format as well, where you don't have as much time to prep for an opponent, you don't know who the hell you're going to be playing against next. I think, apart from that opening game, which is against T1, and I reckon they should be good against T1. I think they'll be a difficult team to prepare against because you can't know for sure that they're going to be running all the same compositions. I think they have chances of changing up what they might be running on Haven, what they might be running on Abyss potentially as well. And I think they're still going to be good for it. I feel more confident about Vitality, I think, than the other teams, like all of the other teams.
More so than G2?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Really?
Why is that?
Because I think that the style that they showcased throughout Kickoff, other than in this final, everything that they did up until this was very much about getting that like fluidity and read on their opponent and what they were doing in the moment. And the speed at which they were adapting to opponents and responding to what they're doing, I think is extremely useful when it comes to an international event. Because you're going to be playing against teams that are doing different shit that you can't be prepared for. And I think G2 is very much about what they do a lot. And what they do is fabulous. But what they do is run the Yoru chamber on Pearl and Abyss. What they do is index super heavily into Breach Tejo on the other maps. And I think that the flexibility that Team Vitality has opportunities to be rewarded more.
I just
Sideshow
think
needs Vitality to be good because they're playing against two teams that, I mean, they just played Team Liquid, who he hates, and now they're playing against T1, who he also hates.
That's so true.
That
he
is
needs
true.
them to be good.
It's so true.
I have a lot of faith, though, that I think, like, in comparison, I think G2's style will be really good in the early games at, like, kind of playing to themselves and shutting down the chaos, just because I think they're so well structured. And then I think as we get deeper into a tournament, when it's, like, top 4, those kind of games into the, like, final bracket bit of the event, I also have more faith in like their prep and ability to come up with an ante to win in those big matches, which is why I think Vitality is the only team I could see kind of like usurping them. But in my mind, I think those reasons put them out ahead of Vitality for me.
I think there is a chance that EDG look nightmarishly good as well if they can keep up.
Yeah,
their,
they just fucking
end of
lock
bracket
in.
Form.
Yeah.
Possible. All right. We do need to be moving on to Americas, though, because as Kurt mentions, we have a hard limit today, which we don't normally have because we've got to skedaddle to meetings and stuff.
Are you going to make that one, are you?
I'm going to try. I mean, I might go back to sleep. Fuck it. We got 53 minutes. So thank you, TMV. Appreciate you. Chobra as well. Thanks very much for joining us for the Pacific and the EMEA segment, even when I wasn't there. So...
We're getting used to it now.
Josh, I bet you really liked Chobra's takes at the beginning of Pacific, right? He did a really good job. Would you agree?
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. Fantastic.
Thanks. I love that you care about my opinion.
Josh is going to put that in your Plat Chat year in review.
Yep. All right, we'll swap you two out then, and we'll get in Bren and Wyatt for Americas.
I just want to say sorry, Bren, for bringing up those clips. I don't think there's an apology needed for that, is there? He was the one. He did do them, I suppose. So he made the choice that this was being recorded. Could be brought up any time in the future.
How were we not worried that he would like break the sink?
How were you not worried that spraying water all over what looked like presumably like a hotel or Airbnb was going to like?
That was our apartment that we were paying for.
But it could still flood the floors.
It just looked like a hotel.
Your neighbor your downstairs neighbor having fucking like sudsy water come down as they hear a man singing in the sink above them.
There was probably 1 pint of water max thrown on the floor.
Yeah, a pint of water is still significant.
That's you spilling a glass of water. Are you worried about your downstairs neighbors when you spill a glass of water?
You were also blasting out "It's Raining Men."
You think I know what a pint is? I'm American. Fuck you.
You drink beer. You know what a pint is. You don't live on the
Imperial. Americans use Imperial.
Yeah. Americans pretend not to have empire.
I don't use any measure for liquid. That's the realest American shit. I know what 12 ounces and 16 ounces are, but that's the only measure of liquid I know. What is a pound?
Actually as American
what is a pint?
as it gets.
What is anything else? Fuck you. I know 8 ounces, 12 ounces, 16 ounces, and nothing else.
And a gallon.
Yeah, I guess I know that
Gallon
too.
of milk. Yep.
Not so
right.
sure
Gallon
about
of milk.
All right, get out of here,
Yeah.
Joe, bro. Get out of here, Joe, bro.
Catch you guys later.
Don't
Thanks for
destroy my
coming
point.
on. Appreciate
Bye,
it,
guys. Thank you.
All right, Bren's restarting his computer, and Wyatt is potentially coming on.
Maybe.
So we will have both of them shortly.
Wait, this is so happy. We
but-
have 685 members, and if we get one more, then we get 686, which is
That's
such an
true.
awesome number.
But for real, like, thank you for the support, everybody. We do pay everybody on the show, and your memberships help us have larger casts and more coverage of Valorant. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for becoming members. We will be doing something fun with members for Masters Bangkok top 10 players. Easy for me to say. I'll be sending out a form on the community tab for members where you guys can make your own top 10. Actually, that's not members only. Never mind. That's community. We'll be doing a pick'em for members. Sorry. But we will be doing a community top 10.
We could actually look and see who won our members pick'em, couldn't we?
We
Because
could.
now all of the brackets are closed.
Yes,
By the
we
way,
can.
that meeting got
We
pushed
do
back
that
to
in our next-
12:30, so we're
What?
not as
What
pressed
meeting
for
got
time.
pushed back?
The town hall meeting is at 12:30, and then the kickoff meeting is at 1. I'm talking Eastern time, so that's 9:30 for you.
Yes, sorry. That was always the time of it. Oh wait, no, maybe it wasn't always the time.
No,
of
I
it.
thought it was 9 at first, and now it's 9:30.
Wait, so they pushed it back half an hour, so now it.
So now it overlaps with the other meeting. Yeah.
Well, whatever. We'll figure it out. We've got enough. We've got enough time to do Americas properly, so
For sure.
We'll be good to go.
Brennan.
Hello, Mr. Brennan Hook.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're live.
Yes, we're live. We're
What the
live.
frick is going on?
I mean,
What's up? What's up?
there we go.
Are we? Should we wait for Wyatt? Should we just shoot the shit for a bit? I mean, we do have a little bit of extra time, as we said. So
We
we've
could
got an
check in
hour
on
and
our
20
community
hard limit.
pick'ems while
Yeah,
we
let's
wait.
check in on
Yeah,
our community
yeah.
pick'ems for
That's a great idea.
our members. So let's do Americas.
Who won? Yeah, let's
Oh,
have a look at
yeah.
Americas. So, which region was it where there was a guy who was doing super, super well?
I think it was Pacific. But let's check
Right.
Americas because we're on the Americas section and I have the page open. But we'll do.
Nice.
So we got the leaderboard. How do if I click this? Okay, that's the group code, but it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
How do I
Unlucky.
do this? Oh, pick'em group. There we go. No. How do you do this? I'm tripping. Leaderboard.
What? Is that just the general leaderboard?
That's the general
Is that
leaderboard.
like worldwide leaderboard?
I actually forgot how to do this. It's
So you need to go to the group URL and then you go to leaderboard or something.
I forget. Hold on, let me figure this out. It was
We
so much
forgot.
easier when I
Sorry,
didn't have to
chat.
wake up at 5 in the morning to do the show.
Yeah.
There
would've
should be
been
a way
nice.
to do this, right? Like, oh, it's because we're not in the group on this account, because I'm not logged in on. I refreshed all my browsers, so I wasn't logged in.
Gotcha,
One
gotcha.
moment, I have to log in. I don't know how to log in on the Plat Chat VLR account.
I think it's normally linked to like Twitch or something. VLR
Yeah.
logins are like, they'll let you log in with Discord or Twitch or something like that.
I thought my brain wasn't working, but it wasn't working in a different way.
Brent, I noticed that you're the only person that's put a blue ski in the little lower third.
Yeah.
What you been blue skiing recently?
Yeah, I just farm brain rot TikToks and post it on there. To be honest, that's all I do. We were educating you. Me and Alice were educating you the other night on Oopie Goopie.
Oopie Goopie.
Yeah.
Does anybody
This guy
else?
didn't know what Oopie Goopie was. Can you believe that?
I have
don't
no
know
idea
what
what that
Goopy is.
I think half. No, I would say
Kurt knows what it is?
80% plus of
I
our
don't
chat
know
won't
what
know
it
what
is.
Oopie Goopie
You don't
is.
know what Oopie Goopie is?
No.
You are not Gen Z coded. You're like Gen Alpha coded,
You don't know
despite being a
about
millennial.
Les
Brent.
Artisans, Les Mastermind, Les Botomiseurs.
Qu'est-ce que
There
tu
we
vas
go.
dire?
I did it.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Congratulations.
Okay, here's the
to-
group.
Should ask Janda.
C'est Janda from Norway.
S
Dude,
Janda.
shout out to them.
What did they get? What did
Oh,
they
their
get right?
lower
What did
their
they
upper
get
bracket
wrong?
Entire
was
no-
clean.
Yeah, that was pretty decent. Not too bad.
Yeah, the MIBR in the top.
They predicted 2G to win.
They predicted 2G to win. Oh yeah, they did. The game against Furia. And then the lower bracket was just kind of like a little chalked because of that, but
they they basically had the top 4 right, except NRG.
Yeah.
Ours was horrible, so we can't be critics. I don't even know where ours is. Oh, yours. Look at ours.
Wait,
look at
how many points did we get?
NRG winning. Pepe laugh.
I don't even know how many points we got, but not many.
No, not many at all. Does it say how many points? No, I don't think so. Are we in the group somewhere?
Maybe.
We see how many people beat us
to analyze.
I didn't even join our own group. That's crazy.
We knew we were gonna get blasted. All right,
yeah,
let's start.
Wyatt,
and then Wyatt can join us at some point.
He's getting on soon, so yeah, he'll be on. Let's start.
All right, let's start then with crew, shall we? We'll discuss the crew almost run, what could have been for Americas. It certainly felt like they had a chance. I remember us talking last week about crew having the best chance of going on like an upset run and upsetting some of the top teams that we were discussing.
See, that's funny because 2 weeks ago, I remember getting ragdolled, pushed in a locker by you, Mimi, and Wyatt.
Yeah.
Over me saying that crew were going to be NRG. That's kind of funny that you guys just said that actually the week after.
Well, I stand by thinking that NRG would have won that game because my goat finesse.
You.
But honestly, the GOAT finesse didn't fail at any point apart from this one. Bren, I don't understand what you saw in the water in that match because you did. You read it completely.
Yeah, dude, go back and everything that happened, I spoke it into existence. I swear to God. Because they've been, how many of their close maps, if you go back before that point, we don't need to talk about NRG, bro. We need to talk about crew. But you go back and look at the old NRG matches, and they were barely hanging on by a thread because it's 4v5, and like one player has to put up almost 30, like on maps that they were close and they were losing. Tell me that's a good sign.
Where were NRG in the show flow?
They're not in.
Bren wanted to
also.
Bren wanted to gloat, and that's reasonable.
Wait. Okay, now
I want people to go back and look at the clip of that moment.
Can we pull it up?
2 weeks ago.
What clip?
And
no, we don't need to dwell on NRG.
No, we don't need to. I want other people to do it in their own time. I want everybody to mass leave the show right now. Let's tank our ad revenue as retribution for this, okay? And vindication for me.
Mute his mic, Kurt. Mute his mic.
Because, listen.
I'm listening, but I thought, now I could be wrong. I don't want to, step all over this accomplishment and your moment. And this time that you have to be braggadocious with the little viewers that you got this right. But that being said, didn't you just switch as like an anti-curse?
No. I was getting convinced by your arguments, but I had valid reasons. And because it was 3 versus 1 and I'm weak mentally and insecure in my own opinions, I folded, but then I decided at the final moment to commit.
But also this is missing the context of what's most important here, which is that crew only managed that for 1 week. They had that
I never said the crew were going to go on a run, brother. I said they were going to be NRG. That's all I'm claiming. And that's what we're here to discuss. We're here to talk about crew we're not. At the end of the day.
Yes, we're not there to talk about them beating NRG. We're talking about them holistically.
Man. Why'd you let me go on this tangent?
Would you agree that crew, though, have demonstrated the ability to go toe-to-toe with the top teams, like, later on in the year?
Okay. In one aspect of the game, yes. But I am not thrilled about their overarching meta approach to the game. But in terms of individual play, in terms of the fundamentals of the game, yes. But I never doubted that part of their game anyway, so this hasn't changed how I felt about them coming in, which is that they'll be around the 4th to 6th kind of area in the standings. unless they make some serious progress towards being one of the teams that is leading the meta, which
we had some hope. There was like the tiniest sliver of hope. Like their bind, I was fucking with their bind heavy.
Yeah, the bind is like the outlier of that. And again, this is not a correlation equals causation, but that is their best map, interestingly enough.
Curious.
Yeah.
Curious.
And
I think that this team will struggle if a meta gets defined in the way that we see like Breach, Teo, Yoru, and everything else. Because genuinely, they're not a tactical team in the sense that they have like a variety of defensive protocols and attack side protocols that they run into, like defaults that they'll end up running. They don't have variety in that regard. They come into rounds with an idea, pack mentality, maybe like a 4-1, and they see what damage they can do with just their individuals, and they focus on trading each other out a lot. And they, over the course of this tournament, they did make nice little adjustments. I fucked with heavy, as Mimi already said, like the bind, like the Vice bind that Shy was running. They're one of the best teams that have implemented Vice on bind, in my opinion, so far. Just from the way that they were adjusting it, right? It's one example, and then also their Viper on Abyss. But I think if you take them out of a tournament setting and put them into, you're playing many matches over a course of a stage, those little adjustments that they're making, and also their like overall their lack of willingness potentially to like run the meta stuff and just lean onto old compositions will just limit them over time. And
by the way, we're saying this, but the team they lost to in the end was MIBR, who run even older.
But I think that's why we should be making this point, because it's clear that just them, like they're a good team off of their fundamentals, they're playing together, their individual performances, like the boring stuff, but they're not the best boring team in the league.
Yeah, when they go up
they're not even the best boring team, Josh.
They went up against a boring team that had a guy drop 83 and 30 or whatever the hell.
Yeah,
so that's going to win
unfair.
That's going to win the boring off. Like
that's going to win the boring off, but also like if he didn't drop a kill record.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's Ospas. Of course he's going to drop the fucking kill record. Like, come on.
This point, I think this. I just agree with what Mimi said, like that. Again, it's not a direct one-to-one kind of thing, but you will be more susceptible to losing the boring offs if you are just committed to playing the very standard things of 2024.
But don't you think, to give Crew a bit of bail, don't you think they would have been, the Crew fans and the Crew players, don't you think they'll be looking back on this going, grr, that fucking Aspas, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have gotten away with it. This was a close series, and he had to drop the kill record for them to win. I mean, maybe he didn't have to literally drop the kill record. He could have gotten close and they would have still won, but he had to perform like a freak for them to win.
I think, the Crew team, in terms of how skilled all of the players were looking, were very well-rounded. They're a more experienced team than the MIBR squad. Yeah, I think they definitely would have. They were, overall, I think, throughout this tournament, probably the better team. I mean, maybe debatable, but I think, yeah, you're right. Would normally beat them.
Looking at Aspas's performance as well, so against Shy, he only went +3. So Shy doing a great job. Melza, he actually went -1. And then you look at the others. Aspas went +17 against Mazzino. Holy. He went +16 against Kesnit. When we're talking about Kesnit being like, a great player that in his moments can carry squads as well on Duelist, he went over the course of the series +16 against Kesnit, and then +11 against Adverso. But in terms of first kills, +6 against Adverso, 6 and 0. So like he was just farming almost everybody, but also the like crucially important Duelist matchup, Kesnit just got beasted.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we think that Crew would win against Sen in that if they ended up winning versus MIBR?
No. I think both these teams lose to Sen.
Earlier in the tournament, Sen, I think it's definitely possible that they win in the fashion that Loud almost did, which is standing with their guns out while Sen have moments where they fumble fundamentals by being overly committed to trying to use every single piece of utility in their mega util comp perfectly. But Sen were so much more refined at the end that they would beat Crew, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we saw a development from Sentinels. The final 2 games from Sen were like the game against MIBR from Sen was good, and the game in the finals was great. And I don't think Crew are beating those versions of Sentinels, but there's no guarantee that would have turned
They
up,
for
I
sure
suppose.
could have beaten bad Sen. Maybe Sen has an off day. The Crew players are in like absolute beast mode. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but if Sen played the exact same way they did against MIBR, I honestly think like prepping to play against a Crew or an MIBR is pretty, like, I think they are the 2 most similar teams that we kind of have. They play at a similar level. They have similar levels of firepower. They're both pretty reliant on playing old comps. They have a lot of crazy individual moments. Like, obviously they're not like perfectly the same. That's not what I'm trying to say. But they are very similar teams, and I think Sen would have beaten Crew in a similar way. And it just all went down to kind of getting beasted on and outboringed by Ospas just being the GOAT in that previous match.
Let's move on to talking about MIBR then, shall we? After we watched this final clip play out of was this the final round? Yeah, it was. But then MIBR go on from this game. After they'd lost on blind, they recover the series. They go on to play against Sentinels, so they earn their spot in a top 3, which I don't think, even when we power ranked them as a like very competent, good team, I think we had them in like our A tier or something. I can't remember. I don't think we had them in top 3. Well, I don't know where we put them.
It was like somewhere around 4th, 5th, if I remember correctly. Yeah. It was something around there. I do think them getting 3rd is surprising, and I think it would be funny to still, at this point, maybe try and do a power rankings debate. Not today. Not today. But now that the tournament is over.
Yeah.
But the 3rd place, I think, is unexpected. That's definitely a few ranks where we suggested initially.
Yeah. I was surprised. I think part of that is because NRG didn't play as well as we were expecting. Maybe Leviathan not quite playing as well as we were expecting, but directly lost to MIBR too.
Honestly, not to cope egregiously, but I don't like when we were doing the group draws at the end and the fucking bottom 4 were like C9, 2G, someone else I've already forgotten.
Furia.
Furia and 100 Thieves is like, one of these, they don't belong with the rest, but.
Yeah. So, did any of you seriously think that MIBR were going to have a great chance against Sen in the lower bracket final? I think it was only Riv or something that went for. Oh no, that was the grand finals, wasn't it?
That was. I prayed MIBR to win.
Did you?
I did, and I did so for the aforementioned reasons that I was suggesting. Crew could have beaten Sentinels in this tournament. MIBR, in terms of the form that they were in, and if Aswas was going to carry over, even 80% of the level that he was playing against Crew with, I thought that if we get a similar match, as I described before, with a Sen against Loud, and Sen are fumbling a lot of the utility like they did against G2, with the team flashes and these awkward setups and spacing being off when there's too much attempt to use utility on Lotus, for example, which is how they lost to Loud, that MIBR would take it. But Sen cleaned the fuck up when it mattered the most. So I'm just feeling like I have to give Sen a ton of credit for being able to do so.
Yeah, this is just like, they need the ultimate glaze for this game. Lotus was so impressive to me. First off, the resurgence narratives for Zelsis and Narrate are just insane. Zelsis was one of the biggest reasons they lost some key rounds in the last game. He was making a ton of mistakes. He was fucking flashing his teammates. He was not looking good out here. And then he came back, picks into this vice again, and just looks incredible as a sea anchor throughout this defensive side. It was a 9-3 half in their favor, and every round that he was getting his sight hit by MIBR on C, he was always getting to. He did such a good job of moving around his setup, putting his wall in different positions, and making MIBR think he wasn't set up there again, putting his thorns in different positions. And isolating fights so incredibly well, even against a double dive comp that I think in a lot of ways was specifically made to try and overwhelm this Vise on C and actually get in. And it was kind of the same case for Nere. They changed the comp a little bit to let him go back onto Fade, and then he just individually goes absolutely beast mode after that kind of heartfelt clip, which I don't know if we've shown it on Plat Chat yet, but maybe we could pull it up of him in their last win being really kind of distraught about his individual performance and Kaplan building him back up. He just had a great resurgence this game.
I think MIBR have got legs throughout the season though as well, because Sen did show up, but a lot of the wins that MIBR were getting, in my opinion, the fact that they picked Abyss versus EG and Abyss into Crew as well, and their ideas of what they were trying to go for on Bind versus Crew, it's clear to me, and I mean I shouldn't be surprised by this, I think, because they've got Fraud in as one of the coaches, but they're pretty heavy on trying to anti-specific setups or spotting weaknesses in team setups. I think it's a good sign that they're actively, from what I see, a lot of teams have differing philosophies when they go into games. They'll be like, we're just going to focus on our own map pool, or we're just going to ban one of the strongest ones for the opponents. But MIBR are actively looking to pick a map that teams are not shying away from, that they want to play, and trying to pick it apart, which they're thinking about the game in that way. And they have the firepower as well. The only thing that I think is going to bite them in the ass later is if we do end up in a rather stale meta state where it gets to the point where it is literally just Euro, Teo, Breach, Vice being played the majority of the time. And because of the roles, they have to stick to double duelist. That's the only thing I can see being an issue for MIBR. But if that doesn't end up being the case and they can still get away with playing double duelist,
I think there's a lot of concerns for MIBR with that aspect, though, because because Cortesia is a smokes player who's just made the transition over to playing Sentinel, and if you're wanting to play meta Sentinel stuff at the moment, you right now should be playing a lot of Vice, and they're not playing any Vice. I don't think. I think he's playing like.
No, I don't think they.
Cypher.
No, they didn't play it once.
Yeah. So he's already just getting comfortable with Cypher. He's playing super aggro on the defense sides anyway, no matter what he plays. So like even when he's on the Viper, for example. And I think trying to refine what he's doing and learn the extra centis that he needs to do on top of that. It's not that it's guaranteed to fail. It's just that every time you're adding more blocks on top, there's more chance of something going wrong. And I think that one of the other concerns for me watching MIBR, they didn't really have their whole team come online for any one match. Aspas drops a kill record. Aspas is consistent generally. Then you have Xenom generally being the second player that occasionally pokes his head up above the water and has a good performance. I think at the beginning of Kickoff he had a few maps here and there.
This map as well, actually.
Yeah, when he played against Sentinel, when he played against Sentinels, he clutched up super hard here on Pearl. Cortesia fried in the off season, was super quiet for the majority of Kickoff, and then towards the end had one match where he went nuts. Artisans had great performances generally, but couldn't turn up in the game against Sen. I think there's good talent on this team. And you see it, but it goes from match to match. You don't see it all working together at the same time. And I think that is only going to get more difficult as they try to go more meta. At the moment, they're going for really simple ideas. And I think that's going to get tougher as the requirement to play new stuff, different stuff, becomes more palpable once you get into the stage one. If you're just running the same stuff all the time, you're gonna get antied to shit in a stage one environment where you're playing every week.
Yeah. If they don't level up and try and play anything new or change the style they're playing, I think they are absolutely gonna get exposed stage one, because let's be real, the attack sides this tournament, 90% of their rounds was contacting around the map. Aspas gets a pick somewhere because he's the GOAT, and then we hit a site together and then kind of play a post plan. That's kind of it. not to say that like they were bad. Obviously, it worked out. I think it plays very well to the strengths of these players and the comfort roles of what they did. Like, I think this is a solid way to play the game for kickoff. But if that's all they're going to be into stage 1, then I don't expect this team to be top 3 again in stage 1.
But we didn't expect that in the first place, so that would be maybe an unreasonable expectation, right?
Sure.
Of like them repeating this.
Yeah,
Hard to know.
Yeah, I am doubtful that they wouldn't be able to maintain like at least being around 4th. They are going. There's a lot of time until stage 1 to continue to refine things. Get Cortesia more reps playing Sentinel, or get him over to Vice specifically playing Sentinel. I also think in these games, I feel like Cortesia is in a get him in a room for 1 hour and I can fix him situation. He's a lot of times watching him, it reminds me of watching a Sentinel on a team coached by Potter. But like he was like APOF maxing. Like it was too much. And I mean that in regard to like how Potter really likes her Sentinels to play with a lot of confidence and be so active at taking timings over and over. I swear Cortesia was doing that even more than APOF last season. It was a constant factor. And he just wasn't getting enough value extracted from enough of those situations to justify that, but is on the cusp of being really excellent. And him aside, yeah, I just trust that they have enough time before stage 1.
They do
and
have a ton
will
of time.
have the luxury of being able to just sit back, watch all of Bangkok, see what is working for the teams that are winning there, and adopting that into their play in practice.
I don't know why, but I
real
don't think
time.
they will.
Why?
I don't.
I mean, if that's true, if you're right and they don't, that's
There's
a fucking total
there's a
miss.
history of MIBR like not always being like kind of setting their own meta, playing the way they want to, having like this specific read. There's also kind of an Ospas thing of always playing Jet, always playing Raze, because he's fucking incredible with those agents. Like, if the meta stays, Breach, Teho, Yoru, Vice, like, I want to see them adopt more, but I just, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that they will. But I'm hopeful for something different, and there's a lot of time for them to redefine who they are, and I'm excited to see what they do become in stage 1.
I do think you're right with Aspas. I would be super surprised if we see Aspas playing a large amount of Yoru. That would really surprise me if we saw a lot of that. But Fraud loves playing weird shit. I mean, Fraud on previous teams is... Yeah, when he was coaching Loud and they came up with the Viper Harbor compositions. And then,
in 2022?
No.
Or 3?
2020...
Was he with Loud in 2023? I thought he was...
2023.
Yeah, I remember talking to him about the Harbor Viper comps, and he was very into that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe he's because obviously at that point he's working with Sadak, and Sadak's coming up with crazy shit. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That I attribute a lot of that to
he didn't work with MIBR last year until
he did.
Right for like the last month or something.
From February. He was with them the whole year.
Really?
Yes, he played with he was with them for kickoff.
I thought Fraud joined the team.
The first event recorded with him coaching was February 2024.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. All right, fair enough.
Maybe Wikipedia is wrong, but I'm pretty I thought I remembered him being there.
Fair enough. No, I didn't remember that. Yeah, I guess that is a bit strange.
But that's why I'm saying like that's where my thought stems from, because they didn't play anything new really last year.
No,
and because of Ospas's like his roles that he's good at, and I don't expect him to play much different. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. So some interesting stat. Aspas, he got to 2,000 kills in the game against Sentinels. By the way, after dropping a kill record in the BO3 the day before, or was it the day before? Like 2 days before, something like that.
It was the day before.
So the day before he drops a kill record, comes into the game against Sentinels, and he needed 27 kills to be able to pass 2,000. And map 1, he goes 15 kills, and you're like, all right, it's going to happen in map 2 then, isn't it? Map 2, he gets 11 kills, so he's 1 away from this kill record, and they're about to be potentially 3-0'd. And so if they hadn't had that monstrous performance on Pearl, Aspas would have I don't even know, was it like round 3 or something when he got his first kill? Because it wasn't on the pistol round.
Yeah, we
were waiting.
Yeah, he didn't need a monstrous performance.
He needed 1 kill on Pearl.
The production was fucking ringing Mitch and I up like, he's only 1 away. He's only 1 kill away from 2000. Like, all right, we got him. We're going to give him the narrative. Don't worry.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, that was an entertaining one. It feels like all the time when I see that happen in Pacific, where it's like, it's always a round they lose. You know what I mean? It's like, Jing just hit his 1000th kill as Paperx get eliminated by DFM or something. All right, let's move on to talking Sentinels, shall we? Because Sen, they had to win that series, and that was the map Pearl that could have taken them across the line in a 3-0 fashion against MIBR. And instead, I mean, TMV was crashing the fuck out because he wasn't able to go to bed and wake up for the Pacific games. But I think everybody else was entertained, at least, by what we saw on Pearl.
No, I was also pissed. They should have just won that shit. We didn't need to play another game.
They were up 9-3 at the half.
I wanted to cast some good fucking Valorant, and I got it on this map. So I appreciate that, MIBR, for getting one banger in a series that was otherwise incredibly one-sided.
I did not realize that this is why TMV was crashing out. That he was
crashing out because he wanted to go to bed and wake up for the Pacific games.
I thought
he
was
like,
the world's biggest Sentinels fan when I saw this clip. I did not know that was the reason.
No, he's not even a Sentinels fan. Normally, he's hating on Sentinels for the clicks.
Yeah.
What's funny, this is just a random thing I've just thought of. The weekend where it was 2G crew and then Furia playing. Oh my god, he is so pissed. He could just turn off the stream and go to bed.
No, he had to watch it. No, because at this point, you don't know if MIBR are going to start a comeback.
That's true. That's true.
It actually looks like his fucking mom just put him in timeout in his room and he's crashing out, slamming the bed. Oh my god. That's tough, though. That's tough.
That one map of that series was longer than the 2 games I cast in the weekend where it was crew and 2G. That was 40 rounds.
Way.
That was 41 rounds. This was 40 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
That's amazing.
It's just fucking hilarious. It's just a testament to how crazy
watching.
long it is.
Watching on the desk, I needed to pee at the halftime. It was 9-3, and I was like, okay, well, I can hold this in. Sen will wrap this one up nice and pretty, and I'll be on for the end. And I'm stood up for like an entire map and a half of Valorant after, like into OT. Just like, any minute now, Sen's going to get the required rounds. Any minute now, any minute now. So now I have kidney problems. And they didn't win it. It went to OT. But
it was still good though from Sen. I mean, they did look so much better in this series.
yeah.
One of the things I was looking at was just, honestly, if we just had a team flash statistic, their team flash stats were like through the fucking roof previously.
The util was so chaotically thrown about, especially in that G2 game. I mean, the one retake was Elsa's team flash, 3 people, was
4
tough.
people. 4 people. Yeah. And the only reason Bang didn't get team flash is because he was in mid watching for the lurk. Everybody else on the retake
those moments did not occur. In fact, the opposite. Great flashes were being thrown out that were blinding the enemy team, and then they were getting kills off the back of it.
Zelsis had one of the biggest improvements. But I also think, when I was looking at what he was doing on Lotus, right, I know that we've already kind of been and done and talked about that, but he was running the exact same setups he did against Loud. He just wasn't getting punished for them. He was just watching the timings better.
Yes.
So, like, where he did this, like, really deep wall on C after he'd been doing some close-up walls. So you do the close-up wall, they start baiting it by doing the jump peaks, you bring it back into the site. But then, when against Loud ran the, like, smoke that lands on the edge of the site that lets you lurk in. They lurked 5 people in, and then it exploded, and Zelsis were like, holy shit! Where did you guys come from? Whereas this time, against MIBR only tried to lurk in with 1 player, and Zelsis caught the timing of it.
Yep.
But it makes such a big difference.
God.
It's literally this round.
The production level we have is fucking bananas. Look at this.
So this is the deep wall. and this is the Omen smoke, right? So Loud did an anti against this, where they realized that it was there. They walked 5 players in, and then they got a super deep raise ultimate, and there was nothing that Zelsis could do about it. There's nothing stopping MIBR from running the same strat there. When Cortesia sees that he's got all of this space, Cortesia could be saying to the rest of the team, guys, I know we're in a 4v5 right now, but if you lurk through with this Omen smoke with me, we can catch Zelsis. And instead he goes for the individual timing. So spots like this too, I was like, yeah, Zelsis is playing a lot better, but also he's not getting tested in the same way, I think, by the right decisions coming out from his opponents. And that was something that we did see in the games against Loud and against G2.
I mean, I also think that, not to just run back to MIBR, but I think that does tie into a moment of what I was saying about Cortesia, where it's just like go, go, go on all of these timing catch situations. For Sen, though, I do want to narrow in a bit on talking about Abyss, because I like the fact that they did not falter from running that double smoke comp approach due to the G2 loss, starting on defense when that comp is very attack favored. They get to start on attack versus MIBR. They get out to a really good lead. And then on defense, the utility for the retakes was so much more tightened up versus that game against G2 that they were able to then close it out. Like the double smoke deep mid default they have on attack every round, MIBR were scrambled. They did not know how to deal with that setup at all. Sen just had full map control that entire half.
I like the comp as well. I think it's a good composition. I think they were just flubbing the execution of it previously. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it's goated.
I think the problem that we saw in the finals was that they didn't understand how to defend against mid. There was like an enormous mid gap, and Narrate was just getting super pissed off having to try to hold it as Omen. So they definitely need to like adjust an extra couple of steps in there of like, what do you do if a team tries to create mid pressure consistently? But I don't think they need to change up the entire comp to deal with that. I think there's options.
No, and I mean their attack sides, the way that they can pressure mid with the double smoke comp is so strong. Like the value they were getting in the final and in this game from like defenders not being able to rotate through mid and having to like put a lot of resources into fighting and reclearing that space was a huge boon for them in both matches. So I'm fucking with it. I fuck with the vision from Sentinels across the board.
Let's talk the finals then. Let's talk G2 versus Sentinels. So everybody went G2 apart from Riv. I think Riv was the only player that punted for Sentinels in the talent preds. Anyway.
The only player?
Sorry, the only talent that punted for it.
No, he's a player.
Yeah, Riv's gonna be the 6th player for G2 actually. He's turning up to Masters Bangkok. He's going to be their Omen specialist or their Brim specialist.
Their Brim specialist. I've seen the Molly lineups.
Boss mentioned.
They actually ended up struggling a bit at the start of this series. It felt quite similar to the EMEA final as well. None of the maps were that close.
Same shit, different ass.
You think it felt close? I mean, so I haven't watched the EMEA final yet, but people were pretty down on the quality of the game. No, they said it was quite one-sided.
Every
Each
map
was one-sided.
Yeah, it just kind of fell off.
But
towards the end.
Well, because it fell off a bit towards the end. Yeah.
The reason I think this is slightly different. Again, I need to watch it. But in the finals that we had, like reflecting on it, 2 teams playing very similar compositions, and as a result, and they played each other before, they know what the win cons are of their compositions that each other's playing. And so when they see one team do something, they were way quicker, with no hesitation, taking the appropriate response and trying to disrupt timings constantly. Valorant was doing it consistently. And the pace of this game was unbelievable for the first 2 maps. And Fracture was dominant for G2, but it...
That's the problem, though. Fracture and Haven were not good.
We're not good.
Like these final 2 maps were not good, and that's why it was similar to EMEA.
Sometimes you play Valorant,
just fell off.
Sometimes you play Valorant, and you're up against a composition that just gets the ults going, and you get snowballed. Like you don't have a good idea of what to do. When they get the ball rolling like that, it wasn't a great map in general because G2 ran the same A split like 5 rounds in a
Yeah,
row
they
to
just
begin with,
they were
right?
just running splits on Sentinels, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Because they couldn't figure it out. Right, that's bad. But Valorant sometimes boils down to that. They're running a comp with incredibly powerful ultimates. They're playing Fracture. You got 4 orbs to pick from, and they're just getting snowballed.
Yeah, you're talking about Fracture, right?
Yeah.
I had the Waste pull up a nerd ass stat for that map that I'm just going to repeat here that I gave on the desk, which is that on this map, G2's time to plant on attack is 35 seconds. On split,
Hold on,
it's
Wyatt.
like 57
I have
seconds.
the notes you wrote
on
still.
Abyss. On Abyss, it's 50 seconds. Yeah, there you go. And it's like they're they just int on this map. They just int. They did it in the prior game they had on Fracture as well against Lev. They just slam the sites and it works. And I like it. I like that they have a totally different approach on one of the maps. They let the fucking Dogamo loose and he just double satchels in. He's getting multiple kills with classics while midair. I fuck with it.
Is it too soon to talk about the last round of this series? Because I want to talk about the last round of this series.
Haven? You want to skip completely forward to Haven?
Just the mention of Dogamo made me think of that fucking winning moment. The play to finally close out on Haven was some of the sickest shit I've ever seen. Kurt, can you pull up the last round of Haven?
He was a bit of a freak, wasn't he?
He was a nasty, freaky little man this series.
Bren, tell us this story while Kurt's pulling it up.
After the game. And Alice is a big fan of Jorgamo, and we watch his stream a lot. And I was like, "Oh, do you want me to introduce you, and we'll talk to him?" And she was like, "No, it's okay." And I was like, "No, I'll go do it." So we went over, tapped him on the shoulder, and I was like, "Yo, Jorgamo, what's up? This is my wife. She's a big fan." I was like, "Her name's Alice," and Jorgamo was like, "Yo, hi, I'm Alice. Nice to meet you." So I put on his hat, and I was like, Bro's brain is either fried, but he literally has just lifted a trophy for G2, and he's gonna be staring at his ceiling tonight, fucking like thinking about our social interaction. And I'm like, I'm sorry I put that on you. But honestly, it made her day. So
yeah, but also
I don't regret it.
You're not telling Alice's part of the interaction as well, where she said, "I wish you played Graves more. I don't like the Yoru."
She was also nervous. So that was her side of it. She just was like, I wish you played Raze more. And he was like, yeah, well, I'm playing a Yoru and I'm doing a thing, and here's the play.
Show Alice this round.
Yeah.
Ulting through B into tower, fighting in tower, then setting a TP into their spawn, off the Sova, TPing into their spawn behind it. I think it was Jonah P who tweeted it after the game that there's only one player that would have taken that TP in that situation, and it's Jojimo. And to me, this is the ultimate round of how unsoy-coated G2 have become. They have become a fucking whole grain meat-eating American team after introducing Jojimo to this roster. Because you see him willing to take risks that you never really would have seen Icy taking before. You see the vibe of this team being in such a direction that they aren't afraid to, in these big moments, make the play they need to. Sometimes it's to a fault. I think early in the series, Jojimo on Pearl was maybe making some mistakes. I think of that round on B where him and Trent are backside together. He swings alone. Trent has a dart and doesn't swing or do anything with him and dies. But I think he gives them the extra oomph to give everyone the confidence to make the play and add that little extra bit over the line, while also being a guy who implements into the system in such an incredible way and can play into that structured style really, really well too. And we thought in the offseason it's going to be the perfect addition. He's going to slot right in. And I feel like more than ever before, we always say, oh, Cloud9, they're just adding Ye. He just has to slot right in. What a perfect addition. This time it was for real and worked so well for G2.
I think the MVP for me, though, was Trent. As much as Leaf was probably the best player in Americas up until the grand final, I don't think Leaf actually had that great of a grand final performance. And Trent's heroics and his incredible fragging and his great util usage as well, as it has been all tournament on the Tejo when he plays it, was absolutely required, actually, to win this series for them, to get them through the more difficult points so that they could get to the fracture and get to the haven where their map pool advantage could win for them.
Yeah.
He fucking fried this game.
And for honestly, biggest fucking weekend of Trent's brother's life. He was there, got interviewed, and was like, "Yeah, I love Trent." Was wearing an Eagles hat. Trent wins this. Eagles win the Super Bowl. Shout out to that guy. He's having a good fucking time.
Yeah, Trent. Even just individually, as far as the stats, this was the best tournament he's played since like I can't even remember when, but going back, I know for a fact this was better statistically for him than any period of time in 2024 cleared in this tournament.
Yeah, it's amazing. He looks like Oh My Trent, like tier 2
stomping
on everybody.
Place.
Yeah.
All just talk about Trent. Name one Trent kill though. Could never remember a Trent kill.
I remember one. Ascent 1v3 clutch against Optic when he was on the guard, 2022. He darts on A. Yeah,
do you remember one from this tournament?
No.
Really? I remember one.
I remember lots.
The Pearl 1v2, the snap flick from Art to main when he was retaking.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Sen looked terrible here. Sen looked terrible on Haven. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they could make...
This is going to happen. This is going to happen.
Yeah, of course it is.
Right?
Of course it is. I'm not saying that they should look better. This is their permaban. They were going for it. Like, they just got outpaced in terms of the map
You could
pool,
tell it was their permaban.
But yeah, I mean, like, Narrate looked like he hadn't played ISO in months, to be honest, and was just hoping that he could skill it because he used to be a duelist main. But the shield timings were way off, and the vulnerables weren't really coordinated with other people's.
Ults missing.
Retake, the ults were... So the ults, the reason why people hit their ults so often is because when you play it in this comp, you ult off Yoru info or you ult off Sova info. And he was just kind of fucking, and just seeing if he could hit them. So they actually could make this comp work. I genuinely think they could make this comp work if they put more time into it. But we're already seeing this comp start to get kind of countered, I think, by the Breach Tejo stuff. And you saw it on their attack side, the way that they were like lurking Narrate and Zekken around the maps to try to not give the defense timings to use Breach Tejo util. It just looked horribly awkward for them. Really difficult to play. So it's probably not even worth putting the time in. Just keep it as a permaban and you'll be fine.
Yeah, just don't have to play through a lower final and have 2 maps banned against you and then have to play all 5 maps of a BO5. Just win earlier and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Which, to their credit, they came out, I think, with fantastic ideas of how to beat the shit out of G2 on Split in particular.
Oh, definitely. I was surprised that G2 picked that straight away. Having not, I mean, I get it. They were able to watch Sen play it a couple times. They didn't debut what they were actually running on the map yet. I'm assuming they had success in scrims and felt like we can beat them on this. We know what they're doing. And then it's a situation where, when it comes match time, we're maybe not as high quality on this map as we thought. And Sen continue to be in really great form, tightening up all the errors from prior series. But impressive win nonetheless.
To kind of sum it up for me, reflecting on this, my takeaways from the final are not my G2 stocks dropping because of the maps they lost, but honestly my hope for Sentinels really rising for what I think they're going to be able to do at the international event this year. I think these last 2 games they really found themselves. We finally saw the pinnacle of their comps coming together and the execution looking really on point. We saw a lot of individual players like Zelsis, like Narrate, coming into their own. And I have a lot more hope now for Sentinels in Masters Bangkok compared to where I was at a couple of days ago. Not having my G2 stocks really drop all that much at all. I think this is just a good outcome for both teams. I'm feeling so much better about Americas.
Good outcome for real patriots.
For real. Type shit.
Are
you a fake patriot, Josh? Are you about to fucking espouse some unpatriotic vitriol? Let's hear it.
Patriot to what? The United States of America?
The United States of Americas.
Yeah. It can go get fucked as far as I'm concerned. Okay. In terms of G2...
Are you still on American soil?
I'm on American hardwood, I suppose. Yeah.
Dude, that hotel does not have real hardwood floors. Let's be fucking real.
I'm about the only
please?
person. I'm about the only person in America that wouldn't be mad if they got deported right now because I'm on a flight back home like tomorrow. Everybody else, try not to deport people. Challenge very difficult. Do you think that the stocks? So you said the stocks, your stocks in G2, they've not dropped very much at all. Coming into this game, we had not seen G2 play on Bind, Split, or Haven. Haven, I thought, okay, they're kind of cooking. I'm liking what they're doing. They looked really competent. I like the game plan. Split, I like the comp, their execution of it, and the way that they were unable to get past Sentinels. I mean, they got rocked in this game, but it's a sample size of 1, and it was against a team that was super prepped against them and runs the comp themselves, and you knew exactly what to do against it, I think. So maybe there's some bail to be thrown there. We still have not seen their bind, and that looks like it. I mean, I don't understand really why it would be a permaban, because I think you can run KO comps. I mean, you can run the Vice there as well.
Additionally, just for G2 as a team, they liked to play bind a lot last year.
They did, yeah.
Not what map they dislike playing generally.
It's a little unusual. But anyway, I think what concerned me most was we don't know about their bind, and their split now looks like a little tentative. But
I think their split was because Sen looked like old Sen.
You don't think they would lose split to other teams at all, even though they got 13-4, though?
The narrative for this entire finals was, like, again, looking back at it, preparation for Sentinels. And then it just weans off as you get deeper into it, because they had incredibly strong ideas of how to play their retakes. They genuinely played their retakes on A, like they did when they had Sassy and Tens on the roster. And do you remember how they would just hold on to A heaven control, and they would prioritize, like, within those timings, like, super well, whether or not to fight for screens or ramp control, and do it to disrupt, like, as the plant's going down and cutting off players and just putting the slow squeeze onto the side players. That was just winning Sen so many rounds. And then Abyss was also just a lesson in we've counter-shotted your ass. The breach tail, right? Just completely counteracting Leaf's impact. Normally he'd be getting constant mid-round information with his like deep mid positions, but he couldn't because of the Tejo missiles.
But don't you think it looked so tough for G2 to play this map with a Tejo on the other side? They couldn't do their normal stuff.
Do you think every team is going to opt into Tejo or Bangkok?
No, but I think that there's plenty who do. I mean, for example, DRX have been running it on every map. Vitality run it on Abyss as well. Then you've got EDG. Simon was running quite a lot of it, though not necessarily on maps where it would interact badly with Leaf's chamber. But I think there's reasons to think that the more time you have to look at G2, the less the chamber idea might work, because it's very positional. Like, there are spots where you know that Leaf is going to want to try to play, and if you deny those early, it limits his ability to play in these, like, tucked spots. He can still have his impact to some degree, but I think there are signs that G2 might find it more of a struggle at Bangkok than they have done in Americas.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Anything further to... Oh, what was the funny Valin tweet, Mr. Curtis, that we've got in here? Did he have a good one? A barn burner?
Yeah, Rob Moore. I like Rob Moore, but this tweet makes me like him a little bit less. He's kind of siding with Chiefs fans here.
Yeah, being a Chiefs fan is an L. It's just a general L being a Chiefs fan in 2025.
And then Valen quote tweets him and says, "Don't look at my new profile banner," and there it is.
I think
that's really good.
The Chiefs are so remarkably unlikable. I don't see how you could be a fan of them.
It was glorious last night. Oh my god.
I hope everyone in Kansas City suffered.
Were you?
It was like the ultimate hate watch.
Away. Yeah,
if you didn't watch the game, it was not a 40 to 20 game. It was like a 40
when it was 40 to 0.
Game.
That was. Oh, I fucking felt so good just watching the joy drain from each and every one of those. Donald Trump, the piece of shit, leaving halfway through because of course he's a fucking Chiefs fan. Just,
Beautiful.
What a beautiful night for what a rare beautiful night in America in a shitty fucking time for this country.
Real quick before we get off on a tangent, though, I want to say it's like it was pretty awesome to see G2 finally lift America's Pacific trophy. The last time they won like something like that was before partnership. It was like coming into Reykjavik. They won like against,
and that was only North America.
That was only North America. This is something that like was slipped out of grasp of G2 constantly, and the interview at the end, seeing the reaction of like the core G2 players was that was awesome. I thought it was really cool. And Valent saying as well, like, man, I'm so glad that I proved I wasn't the curse, which I didn't even didn't even cross my mind like that it could even be a consideration, but I guess it was for him because his team won what was it without him?
Spotlight.
Yeah, Spotlight. But yeah, I mean it was awesome.
We had two regions, EMEA and Americas, where the team who won the trophy, it was so meaningful to them. Like G2 really wanted that trophy after they choked, especially in stage 2 against Leviathan last year. And you could see how much it meant to Valent. And then in sorry, not EMEA, Pacific. The Pacific and Americas.
Yeah.
And in Pacific, it meant so much to Mako. So much, I mean, to some degree to Bane as well, but especially to Mako. To have gone for so long without a trophy is unthinkable for DRX when they came into Pacific looking so strong. And then two regions where they just, like, the top team came in, not destroyed, but won, and were like, we don't give a fuck about this trophy. We're trying to get champions wins. Like, EDG have got Kang lifting the trophy being like, China would have been in the darkest time forever if EDG didn't exist. And then Vitality, Safe wins the trophy and he's like, I mean, this is nice. It's a little piece of jewelry for the cabinet, but like we're focused on winning in Paris. It's very cool that we have extremely different approaches to how meaningful
I
this
am
was.
glad for a lot of the teams you got to see how much it did mean and that it didn't feel like a Mickey Mouse trophy or whatever, which I feel like it's Kickoff has had more of that vibe in the past, but it meant a lot to G2, it meant a lot to DRX as well, so I'm super happy for those guys.
The community's constantly talking about like, certain tournaments don't matter because they're, I don't know, short or don't have as many teams in them. And yet half the community also wants us to go to more of like a circuit style system like Counter-Strike where like every single tournament has something going on, whether it's the...
It's because tournaments fucking own.
Tournaments are great.
The narratives write themselves over the course of it. You don't like trying to like come up with reasons to watch a game, watching like fucking two glue play against another glue form of glue, Elmer's glue. Like tournament systems are the best for getting people engaged. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Did you just call EG Elmer's glue? Because
that's not what I intended. That's not what I intended.
Two glue against Elmer's glue. That's really funny.
I fuck with VG. Really I don't want to throw shade at them, but
you're right. That's why they saved challengers this year by switching the format away from what it was last year, where it's now just a Swiss system tournament for the stage, rather than infinite season games that get exhausting because much like Americas, you're watching like fucking MIBR versus Evil Geniuses week 10. Neither of them can qualify. It's just
and if you're a 100 Thieves fan complaining about I didn't get to see my fucking team, how about they fucking win something, huh? How about they fucking win something and you won't have that fucking problem in a tournament system? How about
that's what they're asking as well. That's what the fans are saying. How about you guys fucking win something? That's exactly the same thing.
You're on the same page.
Problem if you're shit. It's only a problem if you're shit.
They're not shit. They're not shit. This is why.
Shit.
Guys, let's tack on an extra 30 for this episode and do an NA power ranking really quick. Because I want to see where we would put other teams.
We should do that. We should do that like the week before stage 1 comes back, something like that. Like do like our feel of the power rankings coming into stage 1. But for now, I think Wyatt, it's time to hand over the reins to you because we, of course, need to crown this week's winner of Wyatt's weekly award.
Bet. Bet. I'm gonna go ahead and Kurt put me on. They've been calling this guy the fucking plug. he put me on to what? What?
I trust in him.
I'm the
Oh, he's plugged up. He keeps it.
Not
No,
plugged up.
no, I don't know where the Plat Chat butt plug is.
I lost
It got donated. It got
Yeah,
donated.
I donated it. It got lost, and I donated it.
But no, I would like to give the weekly award to an individual named Sage Datwin, who's been doing a lot of in-person interviews on their YouTube channel, and some of them are getting some traction, but has been asking some really nice questions that are definitely a bit more personal and less scratching the surface, kind of reactive to the game, and it's a nice approach to getting some cool answers out of a lot of the players and coaches. So shout out to him for doing some quality content. Also being there in person to be able to do the little post-game interview IRL is nice. And I was going back and forth because also very valid that I was considering giving it to the person he's talking to on your screen right now, which is Zelsis, because Zelsis was the key to Sentinels turnaround, or at least the biggest key to their turnaround and being able to qualify and then also have a good run against G2 in the final. So listen, maybe a little 50-50 action between the two of them, but either both or one of the winner of the weekly award this week.
How does he have the dead cat on the microphone inside?
Why do you have to be
Just in
nitpicky
case.
about things that don't matter?
That's
That's
a really
a better
good point,
question.
That's a really good point.
It's in case Zelsis exhales.
Kurt, you're fucking right. You're fucking right, and I'm sorry. And I'm gonna go watch this guy's videos. And I'm sorry.
He does written content as well. He does written interview content occasionally, and they're always very well done too.
Maybe he's just
He's been around the scene for a while.
I've just been fucking
Kurt
cooked.
said,
That's my bad.
Kurt said,
That's my
take
bad.
your headset off, go sit in the corner, and think about what you've done.
Sorry, I didn't
we'll
mean to be so mean about it, but it's just I didn't mean to.
No.
Nah, you fucking you
got her
you
ass.
just took me down personally.
On
and
her
I'm
ass.
not even thinking about
I
that.
just did one of those fist pumps. You know what I mean? Yeah, that.
Yes!
Like, yeah, I finally got her.
Dude. My bad. I'd like to apologize to that guy and his dead cat.
Fuck.
God.
Yeah. This Saturday, we're going to give you guys a bonus extra episode. So
Yeah.
normally we've been doing the Plat Chats on the Monday. I've not been turning up to the first 30 minutes. That's just tradition at this point. On Saturday,
He's not
we're gonna
turning
be
up
doing-
at all.
Yeah. On Saturday, we're doing an additional episode to preview Masters Bangkok. So if you are wondering, how are they ending this episode already? Aren't they doing the top 10 players? Aren't they doing a power rankings? Aren't they doing preview of the opening matches? You bet your ass we are, but we're going to be doing it on Saturday because we didn't have time to do a mega episode today, and there was already enough to cover with the finishing moments of kickoff. And you can check out our posts tab tomorrow on Plat Chat Valorant if you'd like to place your own top 15 players for the Plat Chat community top 10 players. So the reason that we get 15 is that those like 11 through 15 still accrue points so that it's not just you have to make it into the top 10 or you're donezo. So you can actually add your own input and we will have a separate community top 10 power rankings or top 10 players and then our own that we're going to put together as well. So we can compare and contrast. So you can catch that episode coming at you on Saturday. So have a look, turn up live, and we'll see you then, I suppose. Bye.
Great job. I don't know why I'm so giggly. Bye.